need to look out for her, even though she sometimes found it annoying. We didn't have much money, but many people admired our strong bond. Love was a big part of our family life. My sister Anita and I got along well, even if we had our share of arguments. We always supported each other, no matter what challenges came our way. Anita got into our state college, but left after a year to marry Darren Efland, the man she loved. From then on, her main goals were to be with him and start a family. Darren was doing well with a college degree and a good marketing job. He was also a volunteer firefighter, and we got along well. Since Anita hadn't used up all the college funds our parents saved for us, I had the chance to go to the same state college. I completed my 4-year degree in occupational therapy. Luckily, I got a job with New Directions, Inc., where I helped people regain their mobility and adapt to daily life. I loved my job, as helping others was something I grew up valuing, and I was paid well for it. During college, I dated my high school sweetheart, Chelsea Higgins. We met at church as teenagers and were very close. When I first met her, she was shy and kept to herself. Over time, I encouraged her to be more confident. She transformed from a timid girl into a beautiful woman, both inside and out. Everyone who met her admired her for her charm, but her heart belonged to me. Not wanting to share her with anyone else, I married her, and we started our life together. After 8 wonderful years, we had 3 amazing kids, 2 girls and a boy. Amber, who is 6, and Rhonda, who is 3, look just like their mother, while little Neil, who is 4, is my best buddy. The 2 of us team up to balance the girls in our home. Recently, we moved into a lovely home in a friendly neighborhood with great schools. We were just like any happy American family. "Wow, look who finally decided to show up this morning," Rachel said with a smile. "I'm not late. It's still 1 minute until 8 o'clock, I replied. "I'm on time according to the clock. You're just envious because I struggle to leave Chelsea every morning, and all you have is your cat," I joked. "Hey, my cat has been more dependable than any boyfriend I've had. Don't underestimate it. Tabby misses me when I'm away," Rachel teased back. Okay, I'll admit you have a point, but it's not quite the same, and you know it. "How's your day looking?" I asked. "It seems like a steady schedule. Besides our regular clients, we have 4 appointments this morning. But Paul, I really want to know how you pulled this off." "Pulled what off?" "What do you mean, pulled what off? How could you be at a movie premiere in California yesterday and back here in good old North Carolina this morning? Were you pretending to be someone else? What's going on, Paul? Tell me," Rachel pressed. "Pretending, California? Me? Rachel, I've never even been to California. What kind of silly stories are you making up? Is today some kind of joke day or something?" "I'm not joking, you are. I saw you on TV last night, clear as day, at a movie premiere. It was you. I would swear on a stack of Bibles. Let me think. What was the name of that new movie? I think it was Candlelight Virgil or something like that. When you walked onto that red carpet, my jaw nearly hit the floor. They showed your name as Pierre Dumont. It was you with your voice too, and that funny French accent you were using. It was hilarious." "Rachel, you must be kidding. That wasn't me. I've never been to California or any movie premieres. You're saying this guy looks a lot like me." "No, I'm not saying he looks a lot like you. He is you. Exactly the same. I'm serious," she insisted. "Well, they say everyone has a double. Maybe this guy is mine. So you say he's an actor? That could be worse. At least he's not someone shady. At least my double has style," I chuckled. "We should get to work. I'll have to look into this guy and see if you're just playing around," I said. I had a busy morning ahead, and while I was sitting down for lunch, I decided to check out this movie and the actor for fun, just to see what Rachel was talking about. I have to say the resemblance was striking. He dressed differently from me, but it was like looking in a mirror. He had a slight mustache that I didn't have, but otherwise he looked just like me. I read more about him. Same height, same build, same age, same eye color and hair color. The only difference was that he was from Europe, and I was American. Later that night at home, I showed Chelsea what I found online, and she was captivated by the resemblance. "Paul, you have to reach out to this guy and see if there's any link between you two. I've never seen such a close resemblance between people from 2 different countries before," she said thoughtfully. "I don't think it's anything special. Everyone has a look-alike somewhere. Now I know who mine is. I'm sure there's someone out there who'd love to meet you, but you know what?" "What?" "Tell me," she smiled, wrapping her arms around me and looking into my eyes. "Even if there is another person who looks just like you, she can't match your amazing personality. "You're truly one of a kind," I said, giving her a light kiss. She replied, "Let's go to another room and discover just how special we both are." And we did. I didn't think any more about the resemblance I had with the French guy. It was just a funny story for a short time. Imagine my surprise when I got home after work 3 weeks later to find a very excited Chelsea. "Paul, you won't believe this. He wants to meet you," she exclaimed. "Who wants to meet me and why?" I asked, confused. Pierre Dumont. It turns out he's just as curious about our looks as we are," she said excitedly. "What are you talking about, Chelsea? How does this guy even know I exist?" "It was me. I sent him your picture, the one of you in that nice suit at my cousin's wedding. I shared it with his assistant, and he's just as eager to meet you. He's coming Saturday at the Excelsior Hotel. Isn't that exciting?" "Exciting? It was just a funny coincidence, and I've moved on from it. Why did you send my picture without asking me first?" "Because you would have said no. Besides, it's not every day you get to meet a real actor. Even if nothing comes of it, think of how interesting this could be. He's very popular in Europe for a hit TV show. What if he's a long-lost brother? Wouldn't that be something?" "No, it wouldn't be. And I wish you hadn't done this," I said firmly. "But why, Paul? What's the harm?" she asked. "You mean besides suggesting that my parents separated me from a brother at birth? How do you think that will make them feel if I start questioning my identity?" I replied, a bit upset. "Oh, I didn't think of that. But your parents are great. They'll understand. They're very kind," she replied. "That's true, but I'd rather not put them in that position. Let me talk to my parents first, and then I can decide if I want to meet this guy." "Oh, but you have to go. It's all arranged." "I didn't arrange anything. You did. If my parents prefer I don't meet this guy, then I won't. Do you understand? If this means so much to you, then you can go." "I will not disrespect my parents just because you want me to meet this guy," I said firmly. "But if you don't go, you'll embarrass me. How can you do that to me?" she replied. "I haven't done anything to you. I came home from work today and found out you've been keeping things from me. If you're embarrassed, that's on you, Chelsea. I've done nothing to make you feel that way." She looked down, feeling sad. She knows how much I care for my parents and look up to them. "Go ahead and talk to them, Paul. I understand. But show them his picture when you do. It might be interesting for them to see how much you look alike. They might also want to know about it and give you their support." The next evening I visited my parents and explained the strange situation. They were just as confused as I was, but then they surprised me with news I never knew. My mother began, "Honey, you're grown now, and with all that's happening, it's time you learned something about your background. Your father and I wanted children for a long time but couldn't have any. The doctor said your father was fine, but I had some issues that made it hard for me to have children. We didn't want to live without kids, so we chose to adopt. Your sister was a blessing, and we loved her dearly. Then a year later, the adoption agency reached out to us about adopting a little boy. The only requirement was that we had to decide within 24 hours, or someone else would get the chance. We prayed a lot and felt this was our chance to have more than one child. All the documents were sealed. When we signed them and brought you home, we didn't know anything about your biological parents or your background. The only thing we had to agree on was to name you Paul. Your last name would be ours, of course." She continued, "We wanted to tell you many times but worried you might feel unwanted by your biological parents or think it was something negative. We did everything we could to show you and Anita how much we love you. We would have told you right away if there had been any serious health issues with you or our beloved grandchildren, but you all seem healthy and happy. Why would we want to upset that? So we decided to share this with you if you ever wondered about your beginnings. You're our son, Paul, and that will never change. If this man, Pierre, is connected to you in some way, we understand why you might want to learn more. You have our support if you want to look into it. Who knows where it might lead? If I'd taken a moment to breathe, I might have exploded with happiness. I felt so much love and pride for this wonderful couple. I hugged them with tears in my eyes and thanked them for giving me a home filled with love, something I had been longing for. Chelsea was happy that I agreed to meet Pierre Dumont to see if there was a deeper connection between us. When we arrived at the Excelsior Hotel, we called the number Chelsea had. A strong man came down from the elevator and met us in the lobby. He used a metal detector on us, saying it was just a security measure for his client. At first he was surprised to see me, saying that if he didn't know Pierre was upstairs, he might have confused us. As we stepped into the presidential suite, the guard said, "Boss, you won't believe this." And we walked in. When Pierre and I saw each other, we were stunned into silence. We looked so much alike, same height and nearly the same weight. It was unbelievable. Pierre asked me to take off my left shoe and sock. I understood right away why. We both had the same webbed toes. We pressed our palms together, finding that every finger matched perfectly. We even frowned the same way and had identical dimples when we smiled. Chelsea gasped, "Oh my God, this is amazing, but how can this be?" Finally, I managed to speak. "Good evening, Mr. Dumont. I'm Paul Blaylock. I recently learned from my parents that I was adopted. How about you?" "The same," he replied. "I have some experts looking into my background right now. I think we both feel there's a strong connection, but I must ask if you'd be okay with giving a DNA sample to see if our suspicions are correct." "Absolutely." I was about to suggest the same. Seeing photos is one thing, but being in the same room and actually seeing us together is incredible. "I know, it really is," Pierre said excitedly. "By the way, this is Helena Moreno, my right hand, who helps me more than I can say. She's the one who reached out to your wife and arranged this meeting?" When I turned to greet Helena, I was taken aback. She looked like a model right out of a fashion magazine. I tried to gather myself, but it was clear she noticed my reaction. She seemed to be about 5 years younger than me, with an impressive presence. I composed myself and said, "A pleasure to meet you, Miss Moreno." She smiled warmly and nodded as I shook her hand. "And this is my dear bride, Chelsea." "It's wonderful to meet you, Chelsea," Pierre said in a strong French accent as he took her hand gently and kissed it several times. "My friend is a very lucky man," he added with a charming smile. "I'd like to invite you both to join me at Excelsior's restaurant. It has a 5-star rating that I hope you will enjoy. Shall we go?" The attentive waiter was very polite in his service. I imagined this was the kind of treatment Pierre was used to. We enjoyed friendly conversation and talked about the chance of being related. I agreed with Pierre that we should wait for the DNA results before guessing too much. Helena listened quietly to our chat as Pierre and I shared many questions about our habits and behaviors for comparison. That night we left with more questions than answers. Chelsea was excited about the idea of us being brothers and asked Pierre countless questions about his rise to fame. Pierre seemed happy with her interest, looking forward to her becoming his sister-in-law. 3 days later it was confirmed. Our DNA was the same, which only happens in about 35% of identical twins. Chelsea was overjoyed when I came home that night from work. "It's official, dear. You and Pierre are identical in every way. You must have shared the same biological parents. You've never had a brother before, and now you do. Plus, he's wealthy. He's a well-known star in Europe and is now trying to make it in Hollywood. Can you imagine? Our kids have a rich uncle." "Chelsea, I don't care how wealthy he is. That doesn't change the fact that we were separated at birth for some reason and didn't know about each other until now. I want to find out why, not how much money Pierre has." "Honey, he called earlier today. He wants you by his side when he tells the world about discovering his identical twin brother. He's never been more excited. Helena booked us first-class tickets to California for Saturday, where he'll have a press conference. He's sending a limo to pick us up at the airport. Isn't that exciting?" "Chelsea, I just found out I have a brother. I'm not interested in all the fuss that comes with his fame as an actor. I'd rather spend time with him one-on-one to get to know him better and build a strong relationship. There are still many things to learn. For instance, who are our parents? Why were we separated at birth? Why were we put up for adoption instead of being taken in by family? Why were the records kept secret? Why didn't our biological parents want us together? How did he end up in France while I am in the States on different sides of the ocean? Where are our biological parents now? Are they still alive?" "I understand, dear. Those are all important questions. Pierre said he will bring us to France on Saturday afternoon, and we will stay at a nice hotel. We'll enjoy a lovely dinner, visit some places, and then have a press conference on Sunday. Can you believe we are related to a famous actor?" "He is well known in Europe, Chelsea, but not here in the States. Still, I bet he wants to change that. I just hope he's not trying to use our connection for his career." "Why would that matter, honey? What's wrong with that? Do you really want reporters and fans chasing us at home trying to reach him? If people find out about us, they might want to interview us about our past. Honestly, I hadn't thought of that. Why are you being such a downer? Can't we just be happy about something exciting happening in our lives for once? She asked. I just want to protect my family, especially the kids. I've read stories about how celebrities can lose their privacy and face a lot of trouble. I hope that doesn't happen to us, but I want to be careful. You always think too much, Paul. Whatever you think is right, but can't I be a little excited about this? Is that such a bad thing? She pleaded. Of course not. I don't want to spoil your joy. I just want to stay practical until we get to know Pierre better. Maybe there will be a lot of attention now, but afterward we might not see him for a while. I hope you're wrong about that, she said thoughtfully. I checked online. They say he has over 400 million euros. I'm not sure how that compares to dollars, but it sounds like a lot, she said happily. Sometimes the euro is worth more than the dollar, and sometimes they're similar. But you're right. He's very wealthy. But that doesn't really matter to me. He's my brother, and that's what I care about, I said firmly. I've already made plans. The girls will stay with my parents this weekend, and your parents will take care of Neil. That way, it won't be too much for anyone, she said proudly. Good idea. We should make sure to bring back gifts for everyone, I agreed. I had never seen Chelsea so excited before. This was a whole new level of joy for her. The limo took us to the fancy hotel where Pierre was staying. When we finally met, we hugged tightly for a long time, both feeling the strong connection as twin brothers. It was a heartfelt moment, full of emotion at having just learned about each other's existence. This was a moment that changed everything for us. I want you to know, Paul, that my team has hit a lot of dead ends when it comes to our adoptions. The records are sealed and likely hidden away, he said with a chuckle. That just means we need to look harder. I heard about someone from friends who knows how to handle these kinds of situations. He isn't cheap, but I don't mind spending the money. If there are any answers, he can find them. Are you okay with him searching for our past? He'll start with my side, but he'll also look into yours. I just want you to be ready. I've already told you what my parents know, and it's not much. I've talked to them, and they don't mind me discovering whatever truths might come up. Nothing will change how much I love them, and they know that. Great, Paul. My family doesn't have any answers either. It's quite a mystery, Pierre said. Your room is right next door. Your bags are already there. Why don't you both freshen up and get ready for a night out? It's my treat. People will be surprised to see us together, he chuckled. I'm well known at the clubs. Helena met us at the club, looking amazing. She reminded me of a younger actress, and I was curious how she fit into such a snug red dress. The cheerful woman offered me her arm while Pierre took Chelsea to our table. He had Chelsea laughing and smiling all night. To make him feel like part of our family, Chelsea danced half the dances with him and half with me. She seemed really interested in him, as if she knew him well. I figured it was because of his friendly face. I shared a couple of dances with Helena to be polite. Of course, I noticed she was attractive, like many men would, but I'm happily married and made that clear. Most of Helena's attention was on Pierre, and she tried to talk with me only when my brother and wife were on the dance floor. She seemed a bit distant, almost like she looked down on me for some reason, and I didn't understand why. Maybe she felt that her beauty gave her a special status. I could see that Chelsea was enjoying this flashy lifestyle. I didn't want to spoil her fun, so I let her enjoy her night. This fancy scene didn't appeal to me, unlike my lively wife. I had never seen her so expressive before. As we stood outside our room before saying goodnight, I shook Helena's hand and thanked her for a wonderful evening. Pierre gave Chelsea a friendly kiss on both cheeks and then on the lips before he left. When we entered our room, Chelsea spoke up before I could. Don't say anything. I know what you're thinking. It's a French thing. They kiss everyone for all sorts of reasons, she said. You might be right, but it seems strange that he didn't kiss either Helena or me, I joked. She didn't respond. Chelsea's excitement carried into our time together. We both felt very happy and tired after a long night and slept deeply. We traveled in a limousine with Pierre, Helena, and his bodyguard Gerald to the press conference. At the event, Pierre made a big deal about our story, how we were long-lost brothers who had come together unexpectedly. I stood next to him on his left, while Chelsea stood on his right. Helena was right next to me, and Gerald was moving around a lot. I felt uncomfortable from the start. Dozens of cameras flashed, and I felt like everyone was watching me closely. Reporters started asking me many questions, some of which felt too personal. Pierre had not told me to be ready to speak. After I left a few questions unanswered, Pierre gently nudged me closer to the microphone so everyone could hear me. It was clear he had planned this moment to help himself gain attention. I stepped up to the mic, cleared my throat, and simply said, "I'm sorry. I can't make any statements right now. I'm sure Mr. Dumont can share more details." I quickly stepped back, almost bumping into Helena. It felt like they were trying to keep me in the spotlight, thinking I would enjoy the attention. They were mistaken. Chelsea looked frustrated with me. Pierre quickly took my hand, lifting both of our hands in the air to show we were united to the reporters. He then asked Chelsea to share how she helped bring us together. She seemed comfortable and played up to the crowd while the cameras kept clicking. As Pierre and Chelsea talked to the audience, Helena leaned in and asked me what was wrong. I replied, "My name is Paul Blaylock, not Pierre Dumont. We may look similar, but we are very different. This whole scene isn't for me." Helena looked surprised. "What? You don't want your moment in the spotlight?" she asked, looking puzzled. "That's his game," I replied. "Not mine." Helena's expression changed, as if she was trying to decide if I was serious or not. "Everyone else I know seeks attention. What makes you different?" "I grew up in a caring family that taught me to be confident in who I am. I don't need the flashiness that many people chase after. I prefer things to be simpler," I replied. After Pierre's event was over, Gerald led us away from the excitement. "What happened, Paul? You seemed to zone out on me. Why did you hold back?" "Pierre, I did what you asked. I flew here, attended your announcement, and took countless pictures with you. You didn't tell me I'd need to give a speech, so I wasn't ready. That's your responsibility," I explained. "Looks like Chelsea took charge, too. She saved the day and kept things going while they finished asking questions. You've got quite the charming lady here, Paul." "You're lucky," Gerald said, and Chelsea smiled brightly. Pierre chimed in, "Oh my goodness, look at the time. We need to get you both back to the airport for your flight. If you miss it, the next one is a late-night flight, and you don't want that. Your luggage is in the trunk of the limo already. My driver will get you there on time. Oh, one more thing before you go. Tell him, Chelsea." Pierre nudged her. She looked excited. "That's right, I almost forgot. Paul, guess who is staying with us next week?" "Your mother?" I joked. "No, silly, Pierre. He says he's free right now and wants to get to know you better. I asked him to stay with us so the two of you can chat as much as you want. He can have the spare bedroom. Isn't that wonderful?" "But what about his security? Where will Gerald and Helena stay?" I asked. "Oh, they will be close by at the hotel," Pierre explained. "Besides, I have some other security plans that I think you'll like. Thanks for inviting him, Paul. See you both tomorrow night." Before getting into the limo, Chelsea received friendly kisses from Pierre. I got a warm hug and kisses on the cheek. Tears filled our eyes as we felt our special bond. We were still a bit shocked by everything that had happened. Chelsea chatted all the way home while I hardly spoke. I wasn't used to being so overwhelmed in my own home. I let her express her excitement. Once home, I took the kids upstairs for their baths. Chelsea was on the phone with her friends, happily sharing stories from the weekend. As the night settled down and we prepared for bed, she cuddled up to me, hinting that she wanted to be close again. "Sorry, honey. I'm tired from traveling. Tomorrow will be busy. Can we take a rain check?" I asked. "You've never turned me down before," she replied. "What's going on, Paul? You've never invited someone we just met to stay at our house for a week without talking to me first?" I was feeling upset. "Is that what's bothering you? He's your identical twin brother. I thought you'd be happy to have him here. He's a great guy. Just wait until you get to know him," she said. "You mean the way you know him already? From how excited you were about him all weekend, it seems like you'd let him take my place without a second thought." "Paul? Are you jealous of your own brother? That's one of the silliest things I've ever heard. Stop saying that. Do you understand? It's not right." "Am I? What are the two of you going to do alone in this house for a week while I'm at work? You'll be with him much more than I will. By the end of the week, you'll probably know everything about him that I don't. Then, maybe I should spend time with your parents and tell you all about them," I said, feeling heated. "You're such a fool. I was thinking of being nice to you tonight, but not anymore." She was angry. "Well, I guess you're saving your affection for my brother then? Forget you, she replied, upset. Not tonight, dear. I have a headache, I said with sarcasm. After that, we didn't speak a word to each other for the rest of the night. I woke up early Monday morning and didn't want to apologize. I figured she felt the same way, so I quietly got dressed and left for work. I knew she would remember when Pierre was arriving and would take care of welcoming him. I just wanted to focus on work and forget about this stress. Rachel came in 30 minutes early, ready for the day. How did you get here before me? Did Pierre teach you how to act professional? She joked. Not at all. He's coming today to spend the week getting to know me. Chelsea invited him yesterday and he was excited about it. I asked her what she would do all week alone with him while I'm working. I saw some entertainment news yesterday. I noticed a lot of him and Chelsea, but not much of you. What happened? Rachel asked. Apparently he wanted me to speak a lot but forgot to mention it to me. He likes attention, and it seems Chelsea does too, but that's not my style, so I let them have the spotlight. Are you sure you want to leave him alone with your wife all week? Why do you say that? I asked. There's not much news about him here, but if you search online, you'll see that he doesn't have the best reputation. He's been married and divorced 4 times, often due to problems with loyalty, and many of his past partners were already married. Several years ago, he shared in an interview that married women draw him in. He called them tempting, something he feels he cannot resist. He said being true to one woman was not for him, and he often manages more than one relationship at the same time. He enjoys the thrill. He's the exact opposite of you, Paul, Rachel warned. Thanks for the warning. I really hope he wouldn't consider his own sister-in-law, but I know that has happened before. I need to talk to Chelsea tonight to make sure she understands his tricky ways, I replied. Working with people in occupational therapy also helps me. It keeps my mind busy and away from bad thoughts. I felt unsure about my new brother. I had a mix of feelings and wanted to know more about who we were and how we ended up in our different lives. I hoped his family could find some solid answers. I took my time getting home, arriving 30 minutes later than usual. I was surprised to see 3 security contractor trucks in my driveway and on the street. Something unexpected was happening. When I walked inside, I found Pierre in the living room explaining his plans to Roland, the foreman. Chelsea came over as soon as she spotted me. You're a bit late tonight, aren't you? She asked. Well, you know not every day is the same, Chelsea. I can't just leave a patient in the middle of an important moment. What's happening here? She smiled. It's a gift from Pierre for letting him stay here this week. I wanted him to talk to you first, but he insisted on going ahead. I understand. Did he ask you as my wife not to message me about what's going on in my own home? She looked down. I thought you would be happy. Pierre's team is installing a new security system throughout the house. This way, while he's here, we'll know right away if someone is lurking around. And when he's gone, I'll feel better knowing the kids are safe. Parents have to be careful these days, Paul. And what will this all cost us? I asked. I already told you it's a gift. We won't pay anything, she replied. Maybe not in money, Chelsea, but it's taking away my peace at home. I wouldn't have agreed to this without talking about it first. My name is on the deed, right? Shouldn't I have a say in any changes we want to make to our home? I'm let down by you, Chelsea. Pierre is tough enough to handle on his own. Now I have to argue with you too? I thought we were a team, I said, feeling frustrated. What part of the word gift do you not understand, Paul? She responded. When someone gives you a gift, it is polite to say thank you and accept it with a smile, even if you don't like it. He is trying hard to do something nice for his new brother. Why would you want to ruin that happiness for him? Why don't you just ask him if it's okay for me to take a shower in my own house? I wouldn't want to upset our guest. Did he bring special water for that? I replied sharply. Just go take your shower, she said firmly. Dinner will be ready when you come back down. I left her in the kitchen and Pierre with his project as I slowly walked upstairs to take a long shower to improve my mood. After some calming breaths, I came back down with a smile. I hugged my kids and then took my usual seat at the table. I thought Pierre could sit at the head of the table as our special guest. Is that all right, sweetie? Chelsea asked me in front of everyone. Sure, I said briefly. My brother is welcome at our table. I could sense Pierre and Chelsea smiling even though I didn't look up. I noticed something unfamiliar on the table. Chelsea smiled wide. Isn't it great? Pierre had real French food brought in so we could try something from his home country. Okay, but what is it? Pierre jumped in, excited. Let me explain, brother. Tonight we have three of my favorites, escargot, vichyssoise, and bouillabaisse. The escargot are snails served in their shells with butter and garlic. Vichyssoise is a cold, creamy soup made from potatoes, leeks, and onions. And bouillabaisse is a spicy stew made with different kinds of fish and shellfish. I see. And what are the kids having? My oldest daughter, Amber, chimed in. Daddy, we're having fish sticks. Mommy said we had to eat seafood like the grown-ups, but we don't like that stuff, she said, scrunching her nose at the French dishes. I glanced at Chelsea. She knew what I was thinking. No, there are no more fish sticks left. There were just enough for the kids. Why not try something new this time? It won't hurt to taste a different culture, she said with a hint of sarcasm. Pierre appeared amused, but stayed quiet. Excuse me, I'll be right back, I said. I walked over to the kitchen, made myself 2 peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, and returned to the table. Really, Paul? Peanut butter and jelly? You're not even going to try it? She said disapprovingly. The kids chimed in. We want peanut butter and jelly too. Can we, Daddy? We don't like fish sticks. I laughed out loud. I guess I must be a kid at heart. I cut my 2 sandwiches in half and gave each of my 3 kids a half to start with. Then I went back to the kitchen to make more. I noticed that Chelsea looked embarrassed and upset by my actions, but I was not trying to impress my brother like she was. Honestly, I didn't believe Chelsea really liked the fancy dishes as much as she claimed. I'd never seen her eat any of them before tonight. Just as the kids and I were wiping jelly off our fingers, the doorbell rang. Helena had come over to drop off some papers for Pierre to sign and left a manila envelope. The Excelsior limo took her back to her hotel for the night. Pierre looked at me and said, This is it, Paul. This is everything we have about our background, where you and I came from. Are you ready? I nodded and said, Go ahead, Pierre. Whatever is in that envelope is more than we know now. Paul, Helena told me my team found out all there was to know. If there are still questions after this, they might stay unanswered unless something changes. All right, here we go. He quickly looked through the papers before he started reading aloud. Our parents were very wealthy, according to this report. Their names have been completely removed from all records, so we may never know who they were. The records are brief and unclear. My investigator found the young secretary who typed up the papers for our legal adoption. She was young then, but now she is retired and remembered our story well from working with the lawyer. He continued, She said that our mother, whose only name she recalled was Pauline, had twins. Her wealthy husband, whose name she didn't know, accidentally found out their blood types didn't match. The doctors told him he could not be our biological father. Back then, they didn't have DNA tests. He realized his wife, Pauline, had been unfaithful. She refused to reveal the name of our biological father because she knew her wealthy husband would harm him. In response, her husband arranged for us to be separated and adopted in different countries. She was not allowed any information about us, not even where we were. The only comfort he gave her was allowing her to name us. You, Paul, were born at 7:45 p.m., and I, Pierre, was born 3 minutes later at 7:48. You're my big brother. Pierre broke down and cried on my shoulder. He was heartbroken. We were the result of betrayal. Our mother's first name is Pauline, and that's all we will ever know about her. We will never know who our biological father is. She never revealed his identity, even if it meant losing both of us. She must have cared deeply for him, whoever he was. Something about sharing even this part of our story brought Pierre and me closer, like real brothers. Pierre and I talked late into the night. He said he was sorry for putting in the security system without asking me first. He explained that it was a good system, that it would keep our family safe and help him spot any fans or media trying to get close. He mentioned that asking about the cost would be rude since family means everything. I am his only relative. He said they would finish the installation by tomorrow. I thanked him, trying to hide my frustration. Chelsea had gone to our bedroom earlier, knowing we needed to connect. It was nice. Later that night, as I was getting into bed, I gently tapped her shoulder to chat for a moment. Sweetheart, are you awake? We need to talk for a minute, then you can sleep again. She squinted her eyes and without opening them said, What is it? It's too late for anything else. I'm almost asleep. I'm sorry, but this is important. Rachel from work told me some things about Pierre that I think you should know." "Like what?" she mumbled sleepily. "Since she learned about my bond with him, she did some research online. He has been divorced 4 times, and it seems he has a history of not being faithful. In an interview, he mentioned he enjoys pursuing married women and finds it hard to stay committed. He likes to date many women at once for fun. He's a real ladies' man. You need to be careful around him. He might be charming enough that you won't notice anything until it's too late." "Is that why you woke me? He's your twin brother, and I'm his sister-in-law. Can't you set aside your worries? Just because he is rich doesn't mean you have to speak poorly of him. He has always been a true gentleman. Maybe you need to learn a thing or two from him. Let's put this out of your mind and try to sleep before you disturb the kids with your worries." I felt frustrated that she brushed off my concerns and turned away. Maybe I was overreacting to what Rachel had said. After all, she hadn't mentioned anything about Pierre acting inappropriately with his relatives, so I decided to drop it. When I got home from work on Tuesday evening, Chelsea filled me in on the day. Pierre had gone grocery shopping with her, something he hadn't done in years. He thought it was funny that people mistook him for me and treated him like I was there. Being an actor, he put on his American accent and fooled everyone. She mentioned it was strange to see and hear him acting like me. He enjoyed the freedom that came with being mistaken for me. The kids loved having 2 identical daddies, one at work and one at home. My stomach began to rumble again. The security system turned out to be not completely finished. I was told it was almost done, but there was one part that was delayed and wouldn't arrive until next week. Roland, the project manager, promised to bring the part himself as soon as it came. Pierre was unhappy about the incomplete system, but he shrugged it off, saying, "That's life." To make up for it, he had Gerald pay for our babysitter and took us to the Excelsior Hotel for a nice dinner. At least there were other options to choose from besides snails. There was a dance club on the lower floor that was popular, but we had never been there before. Chelsea danced with me for the first 2 songs, and then she danced with my brother for the rest since he was our guest this week. Helena also joined us for dinner and sweetly asked me to dance, but I politely said no. While Pierre and Chelsea were on the dance floor, I chose to chat with Helena for a little while. "So, Miss Moreno," she interrupted me, saying, "Just call me Helena. Miss Moreno is my mother." She laughed. "Thank you, Helena. I didn't want to assume. I'm curious about your background. Moreno sounds Spanish, right?" "Right. Yes, I was born in Spain. My parents divorced when I was 7, and my mother moved us to France for her new job at the consulate. I've lived there ever since. I learned English in school, while Spanish and French are my native languages." "Your English is really good. I can hardly hear your accent except when you speak French with Pierre. I wish I could speak more than one language. Are you his personal assistant, secretary, or more?" "More," she answered. "What do you mean?" "It means I'm whatever he needs. If he needs an assistant or someone to run errands, that's me. I help with whatever he asks." "Are you saying there isn't anything you wouldn't do for him?" "Pretty much," she replied. "He pays me well. My life centers around him and his wants and needs all the time. But doesn't that make you—" "What? A personal companion? Call me that if you like. I don't care what people think. One day I plan to retire and enjoy a luxurious life." "I appreciate your honesty. I don't judge you, Helena. Actually, I find you really interesting." She smiled at my compliment. "I've never been called that before." "It's for special people," I joked. She gave me a funny look when I said that. Later that night, as we got ready for bed, Chelsea wouldn't take no for an answer. I couldn't help but wonder who she had in mind. I figured she must have been thinking of my brother, so I let it slide. The next day, Wednesday evening, Chelsea seemed to be acting a little different. She wouldn't look me in the eye, but she made my favorite meal and took care of me. I found it strange and thought I saw Pierre give her a sly smile when he thought I wasn't watching. But she didn't respond. He acted as though he had a secret. I wondered if the tension meant something unexpected was coming that I might not like. Pierre was unusually friendly and seemed to hint that something exciting was happening but wasn't ready to share. He recalled stories from his childhood to connect with me better. His wealthy grandmother had left him a large trust fund. He received a top-notch education in acting from the best schools in Europe, and his fortune grew further when he got a role in a popular TV show in France. He even suggested we might work on some TV shows or movies together. I pretended to be interested, but I really wasn't. He seemed so happy to have a twin and said he could see us growing closer each day. He encouraged me to think about moving my family to France to be near him, promising to cover all the costs. He mentioned that my education and job skills would work well there. I thanked him for his kind offer, but said I would think it over, even though I had no plans to move. That night, when I joined Chelsea in bed, she showed no interest in intimacy. "What's going on? Why are you acting this way tonight, Chelsea?" "Everything's fine, Paul. Please don't pressure me. I'm trying to keep a secret." "You mean you're keeping a secret from me, your husband? Let me guess, is it about Pierre?" "I promised I wouldn't say anything, but yes, I'm helping Pierre with a wonderful surprise for you tomorrow. Please don't ask more questions. I can hardly keep it in. You're going to love it. Just wait," she replied excitedly. That's why she seemed so distracted tonight. Why was Pierre doing all this? First, he installed a fancy security system, and now, who knows what else. Chelsea was so excited about the surprise that she couldn't relax. She said she would make it up to me later. Somehow, I sensed I wouldn't feel happy about this surprise tomorrow. As usual, I hugged and kissed my kids before heading to work on Thursday. I felt relieved by the normalcy and the satisfaction I got from my job. Helping people through tough times brought me so much joy. I couldn't imagine a more rewarding career. I knew moving to France wasn't in my future, but I was trying to think of a gentle way to let my brother down. The day went by fast. I felt a bit anxious about going home to the chaos waiting for me there. I decided to face whatever was in store for me. When I got home, I saw a shiny blue sports car parked in front of my house. I wondered if it belonged to one of Pierre's friends visiting us. If we had another celebrity in our house, Chelsea would be so excited she'd be bouncing around like crazy. I really hoped that wasn't the surprise. Things were already hectic enough. I parked my car in the garage, and the kids ran to greet me as soon as I walked in. Their hugs and kisses brought me back to reality. They are the joy of my life. I steeled myself to find out what my surprise was. When I walked into the den, I was stunned. Chelsea was wearing a beautiful black dress that fit her perfectly. "What do you think, honey?" she asked cheerfully. "That dress looks fancy. Where did it come from?" I asked, genuinely curious. "It's from Paris," Pierre chimed in. "It's made of the finest silk. I had it custom-made just for her. Doesn't she look amazing? You have a beautiful wife," he said again, dressed sharply in a stylish tuxedo. "What's going on? And whose car is that outside? Are we having a guest?" I asked. "Oh no, it's just the three of us. The sitter will be here soon. Pierre wants to take us out tonight to celebrate. That's why we're all dressed up," Chelsea explained. "Yes," Pierre added. "I ordered you a new tuxedo to match mine, based on the measurements your lovely wife provided. It's on your bed." "Yes, it's waiting for you. Why not change into it so we can go celebrate?" Chelsea encouraged. I managed a small smile. "What exactly are we celebrating?" "Great news," she beamed. "But Pierre will tell you after you get dressed." 10 minutes later, I came down wearing one of my usual suits. "What happened? Why aren't you in your new tuxedo?" she asked. "The pants were a bit tight," I said, not wanting to worry her. "I couldn't quite manage them, but this suit will work." "How ridiculous! I won't stand for this," Pierre said, clearly frustrated. "I can't tolerate mistakes." "The tuxedo is fine, Pierre. There's nothing wrong with the suit. The issue is with me. I've gained a little weight recently, and it was a bit snug. Once I lose a few pounds, I'm sure it will fit perfectly. Thank you for the lovely clothes for me and my wife." "Clothes? Oh yes, the clothing, but that's nothing, my brother. I have a lot to make up for with you. Since you and Chelsea have been such wonderful hosts to me this week, I have 3 things I want to share with you before we go out to celebrate." The sports car parked on the street is a brand new French-made Venturi Fetish. It took some effort to get it delivered here so quickly. It's called the Fetish because of the thrilling feeling it gives when you drive it. It's similar to your Tesla, but is much more expensive and has a smoother look. Did you know that the French were the first to make an all-electric vehicle? It's yours, my twin. The title is already in your name, and you will surely attract attention every time you take it for a drive. Pierre just smiled at me. So, this was the surprise Chelsea and he had kept from me. I wondered how much such a special car might cost, but I didn't want to ask. It had to be hundreds of thousands of dollars. "I don't know how to respond, Pierre. I feel it's too much. I can't accept such an expensive gift," I said. "It is nothing, Paul. It's already yours. It's the least I can do for someone I have come to care for so much in such a short time. You are what I didn't know I needed. Now that you're in my life, I want us to be close always. However, I have one more thing to show you." Pierre handed me a manila envelope. "What is this?" I asked. "Open it and see, dear," Chelsea said excitedly. I pulled out a set of papers and I recognized my signature on every page. I remembered signing these mortgage papers when I bought the house about 6 weeks ago. I had only made the first payment since then. On top was the deed of trust, stamped and signed, showing it was paid off. While I wasn't sure about the car's cost, I definitely knew the amount of my $950,000 home loan. It was a 30-year mortgage. I suddenly felt dizzy as the reality of what I was looking at hit me. "But what? How? I stuttered before Pierre interrupted. "I wanted to do something special for my twin brother to show how much having you in my life means to me. I could buy you 50 such houses and still feel in your debt, Paul. The love and friendship you have already given me are priceless. Don't even think about saying no. These gifts bring me great happiness. This is the start of a new life for both of us, and I can't wait to see our bond grow." "Isn't he wonderful? Isn't this amazing, Paul?" Chelsea said, her eyes shining with happiness. "I was so surprised when he first brought it up. I could hardly believe it. I promised Pierre not to say anything until everything was ready. I'm still shaking with excitement over how generous he has been." When I looked at my twin, we both had tears in our eyes. They were tears of joy and gratitude. "This is so unexpected, Pierre. I'm almost speechless. I feel it's too much, but I won't take away the happiness showing on your face. I felt similar joy with many of my patients, and I'm incredibly thankful, Pierre. You show kindness to Chelsea and me, and we can't thank you enough." Pierre said, "Oh, come now. We must hurry so we don't miss our reservations. I have something small to discuss with you, but it can wait until dinner. We can talk then." Chelsea and I both hugged him tightly before we went out to his waiting limo. Helena and Gerald were in the limo waiting for us. Before I sat down, I took a quick look around the Venturi fetish car and whistled in amazement. Pierre smiled with delight and said, "It's a beauty, isn't it?" I nodded happily. Once in the limo, Helena, Pierre, and Gerald started chatting quickly in French. It sounded fast to me. I didn't understand anything they were saying, but I knew they were catching up on business, which didn't bother me. I was still floating on a wave of happiness after the surprises I had just received. After experiencing such incredible generosity, I felt a bit guilty about being upset over the tuxedo. It fit just right, but I didn't like being given something without my say. But the gifts of the car and house were beyond anything I could have imagined. I felt very small in that moment. While they talked in French during the ride, laughing and glancing at me now and then, I quietly checked the value of the Venturi fetish sports car on my phone. There weren't many available in America, but the ones I found were priced around $425,000. I suddenly realized my twin brother had generously given me around $1,375,000, treating it like it was nothing. It was a truly humbling moment for me. We arrived at a fancy restaurant where the chef created amazing dishes. Not knowing what anything meant on the menu, I asked the waiter to tell me more about 3 different dishes I was considering. When he mentioned steak, I immediately decided to go with that choice. Pierre ordered for Chelsea, and she seemed pleased for him to do so. While we waited for our food, Pierre shared his idea. "Paul, I can't tell you how much it has meant to me this past week for you and your wonderful wife to welcome me into your home and your lives. I have to return to France on Saturday morning for work. I realized I should invite both of you to join me next week as my guests. It would be even more amazing if you could stay for 2 weeks instead of just 1. We still have a lot to learn about each other, and having more time would help us do that. I will be busy with work during the days, like you have been this past week, but my evenings will be free. I would love to show you the best of France. I hope you might come to love it as I do and consider moving there to be closer to me. Now that I have you in my life, I would be so happy to have my brother nearby every day. Could you ask your job tomorrow if you can take all of next week off to visit me? It would mean a lot to me. Of course, I will take care of everything." "Please, Paul. You have plenty of vacation time saved. What better way to use it than to spend it in Paris and see the wonders of France?" Chelsea urged. "It is true that I have 2 weeks of vacation time available, but I don't like the idea of making plans without discussing it with Chelsea first. It seems she is already excited about the trip. After being so amazed by Pierre's generosity, I would feel terrible saying no to his offer. Plus, I genuinely want to know my brother better. He seems like a remarkable person, even more than I had thought before. I can almost guarantee it, Pierre, and we would love to accept your offer. I have enough seniority at work, so I don't see why they wouldn't grant my vacation request, even on short notice. I will talk to my supervisor first thing in the morning. Chelsea and I both look forward to spending more time with you. The kids would really enjoy visiting a different country. It would be a fantastic family vacation, I said excitedly. Ah, yes, the little ones. There could be an issue with them joining us on such short notice, Pierre mentioned. What do you mean? My brother, when I asked Chelsea, she mentioned that while you both have your passports ready, your children do not. Even with my resources, I can't speed up the process of getting your kids' passports from your government. It simply can't be done. With your permission, I will ask Helena, my assistant, to stay here and take care of your children while the three of us enjoy time together in my home country. If you are not comfortable with Helena, you can choose any other arrangements for your children and I will cover the costs. Passports. I forgot about that. We talked about applying for them one day, but we didn't think it was urgent. As much as I would miss Amber, Neil, and Rhonda, this is still a wonderful chance for Chelsea and me. If Chelsea is okay with it, I have no problem with Helena looking after them, I said. Chelsea nodded in agreement. Helena added, I will care for them carefully. They are very well behaved, and I would be happy to look after them for as long as you need. She looked sincere. Pierre jumped in. It's settled then. I'll have Helena arrange our flight in the morning once we hear good news from you, Paul. I can't remember being this excited before. Thank you, brother, Pierre said. Chelsea was smiling widely. She seemed just as excited as I was. Greg Dixon is the managing partner at New Directions, Inc., and he is also one of my friends. When I asked him for time off, he happily allowed it and wished me well. He mentioned that he read about our situation in the news and was excited for me. I quickly called Chelsea with the great news. Helena was already with them, ready to help book the flight and make other plans. Chelsea promised to have us both packed and ready to go in the morning. I worked hard to ensure my patients would be well cared for while I was away. Imagine my surprise when Greg called me into his office at 4:45 that afternoon, just 15 minutes before I was set to leave. Paul, I'm really sorry, but I have to talk to you. Carl Reed and Francine Walsh have both taken family medical leave. As you know, the Family Medical Leave Act requires us to accept these requests. They will both be off work Monday. This means we will be very short-staffed. I truly regret it, Paul, but I have to cancel your time off for Monday. I can't manage without you three key employees. They promised to be back on Tuesday so you can take off after Monday. To make up for it, I will approve your vacation for the full 10 workdays starting Tuesday. I hope that works for you. But they've already bought the tickets and made all the plans. We are ready to fly to France in the morning. What should I tell them, Greg? Just say that it's an unexpected situation that we can't change. I'm just as surprised as you are. I didn't know they had gotten approval for their leave, but it's all legitimate. I don't know what else to say, Paul. And what if I don't show up on Monday? What then? Please don't joke about that, Paul. You are the best therapist we have. I'd really hate to lose you over this. Try to figure something out, but I expect to see you on Monday. After that, you can take 2 weeks off and I won't say a word, all right? I felt down driving home. I hoped that my and Chelsea's flight could be changed to Tuesday without too much hassle. The one good thing about this situation was that I could stay for 2 full weeks. That's awful news, honey, Chelsea said sadly. How can they do that to you after all this time? You're the best they have. Pierre, Helena, and Chelsea listened closely as I explained what was happening. I was thinking on the way home, could Chelsea and I change our flights to Tuesday instead of tomorrow? I can enjoy the whole 2 weeks after Monday and you and Gerald can leave tomorrow to handle your business. We'll just catch up with you on Tuesday. Does that work? Chelsea looked down as if I had taken away her favorite toy. This was such an exciting trip for her and I was making things tricky. But sweetie, I've already packed for tomorrow, she pleaded. Could I fly to France with Pierre tomorrow? Helena will be here with you all weekend to help with the kids so you won't be alone. Then you can fly out on Tuesday and join us for this big adventure. Pierre nodded in agreement but stayed quiet. I didn't want to upset Chelsea and I knew Pierre would go along with whatever I decided. Helena smiled at me thoughtfully as Chelsea spoke. I pretended to think for a moment before saying, "Sure, why not? It could give me a couple of days to try out my new car. I'm looking forward to taking it for a drive," I laughed. Chelsea added, "Absolutely, honey. You do that. Isn't all of this exciting? Since our things are already mixed together, how about I take everything tomorrow? That way you can fly out on Tuesday without worrying about a thing, and we'll pick you up at the airport, right, Pierre?" "Of course," Pierre agreed. "I'm sad you can't leave with us in the morning, Paul, but excited you'll have 2 full weeks with me at my place. Enjoy your new car this weekend. It's a mixed blessing, isn't it?" Early Saturday morning, my 3 kids, Helena and I, waved goodbye to Chelsea, Pierre, and Gerald at the airport. The kids were disappointed that we couldn't go to France this time, but I promised I would get them all passports for our next trip. That seemed to make them feel better. I told Helena not to worry about watching the children until Monday morning. Since I would be home, I could take care of them while Chelsea was away for the weekend. Helena looked a bit sad about not being needed and tried to convince me otherwise. She was quite determined, but I kindly refused her help, and she finally nodded and left for her hotel. I wondered if she was missing out on work because I didn't let her help until Monday. Maybe Pierre had asked her to be available for this reason. I was used to taking care of the kids alone, so we quickly settled into our routine. Before leaving, Chelsea made Amber promise to help with her little brother and sister, and Amber took charge right away, organizing them with ease. I felt a bit uneasy about sending Helena away, especially since I realized I couldn't play with my new sports car. It wasn't a family car, so I pushed my regular driver, a green Chevy Tahoe, out of the garage and parked the blue sports car inside to keep it safe from the weather and onlookers. Then I went back to the living room where my 3 little ones were engrossed in their favorite animated movie. On Saturday afternoon, after I had given the kids their lunch, the doorbell rang. I opened the door to find a man standing there. "Hello, sir. Are you Mr. Dumont or Mr. Blaylock? To be honest, I can't tell the difference." "Paul Blaylock," I replied. "Mr. Blaylock, I'm Roland from the security company that set up your new system earlier this week. May I come in?" "Sure." I stepped aside to let him in. "I thought you wouldn't be back until next week. Didn't you say something about a missing part?" "Yes, that's right. The key part came in quicker than we expected, so here I am. You know, we always try to under-promise and over-deliver to keep our clients happy. If I could use your office computer for a few minutes, I'll have everything ready for you in no time." I led him to my home office, where he got right to work. "All I need to do is put this security key in one of your USB ports. Your system has been running smoothly since we installed it. This key will help you access your video logs and secure cloud servers from here. Only you can see your files and no one else can access them. It's an extra safety measure for you and us. We take your data security very seriously. By the way, we've put cameras in every room except the bathrooms. The Ring doorbell camera is also part of the system. Both motion and voice activation are included. When there is no movement or sound, the event gets saved with the date and time for your reference. Remember, you can't erase any records directly from the cloud, but you can view them. If you need to delete a record, we have a process that involves forms and paperwork that need to be notarized." Roland said, "Okay, you are all set. May I show you how to access your past recordings?" I nodded. With 2 clicks, I saw a split screen with all the numbered cameras showing live footage. One more click took him to a list of past events linked to my account. He randomly selected a file showing us in the kitchen during a night when I made peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. Then he clicked on another file from Wednesday afternoon, but quickly closed it a few seconds later, looking a bit embarrassed. "I'm sorry about that. Please don't feel awkward. We see recordings like this often. It looked like you and your wife were simply enjoying some time together. The system doesn't know when to record personal moments. You can easily turn off a camera for a bit to stop recordings like that if needed. Just follow the links and it will guide you. Do you have any other questions?" "Yes, just one more. Can I download and save any of my archived recordings as separate files?" "Absolutely. That's a very popular feature. Many clients create their own private collections. When you watch any of your recordings in the cloud, just right-click on the playback screen and select Save As. It's your file, and you can use it however you like. We ensure they are safe against tampering in case there's ever a crime, like a robbery. We keep the evidence intact for protection in legal matters. You've been really helpful, Roland. Thank you for your time. We shook hands, and he left in his truck. I sat down feeling overwhelmed. My thoughts were racing, and I was struggling to process everything. The recording I saw of Chelsea and someone else didn't happen in our bedroom, where we usually share quiet moments. I had been at work during the recording time, so she wasn't with me. Rachel's warning was right. I knew just seeing a short clip didn't reveal the whole truth. I needed to find out everything that led up to this moment. My priority was to download and review all the footage from before Chelsea and I left for France. I wanted to hear any conversations that would uncover what they had been doing without me knowing. It seemed Pierre didn't fully understand how the security system he had set up worked. He thought that some parts were missing, which kept it from working. Having a twin brother was nice for a little while, but I understood I would always be without one for the rest of my life. I noticed that my hard drive didn't have enough space for all the files, so I began looking through them quickly to find any that had Chelsea and Pierre together. I wrote down the file names along with the date and time to keep everything organized. Chelsea messaged me at 3:15 p.m. Chelsea, just landed in Paris. It's already 9:15 p.m. here, 6 HRS. Ahead of you. The nightlights are beautiful. Me, sounds great. Chelsea, how's Helena? Me, not sure. Chelsea, isn't she with you? Me, no, Chelsea. Pierre will be upset with her. She was supposed to help you. Me, I don't need help until Monday. I sent her to a hotel until then. Chelsea, he'll still be disappointed. Me, it's my fault, blame me. Chelsea, if I call now, can I talk to the kids? Me, sorry, they're napping, maybe later. I lied. Chelsea, okay, not sure when I can call again, the time difference. Me, okay. Chelsea, I'm really excited, gotta go now. Me, okay. Chelsea, send my love to the kids, love you too. Me, okay, bye. Chelsea, hugs and kisses. Me, bye. She didn't even notice I hadn't said anything sweet back. Her excitement was through the roof, and I hoped it would keep her distracted. I wasn't ready for any tough talks. But I did wonder why Pierre would be upset with Helena since I had sent her away. Did he think I couldn't take care of my own kids? I took the kids to Costco. External hard drives were on sale for under $100, so I bought 2. We also went to the toy aisle, even though there weren't many toys available outside of the holidays. I let each kid choose one item, which made them happy. On the way back, we stopped at McDonald's, where they spent a lot of energy in the playground. We all had fries and a milkshake to hold us over until dinner. Once we were home, I kept scanning the log files for the rest of Saturday. I was tired, but finished my quick searches and ordered pizza for dinner. My kids could eat pizza for every meal without complaining. After I put them to bed, I noticed how messy the house had become. I smiled as I picked up after them. It was not a burden. Nothing was more important to me than those 3. I tried not to think about what I knew Pierre and my wife were doing while I waited to arrive on Tuesday. What a situation. I knew I wouldn't fall asleep anytime soon, so I started downloading the 26 files I had marked for review onto my new external drive. One drive was enough, but it almost filled up because the files were large from being recorded in high definition. I finally fell asleep around 2 a.m. I didn't set an alarm since my 3 children woke me up at 7 a.m., eager for my special flapjacks. No, I didn't get enough sleep, and yes, the kitchen was a mess afterward, with syrup all over the kids, but I didn't mind at all. After cleaning them up and tidying the kitchen, the phone rang. "Hi, honey, can you hear me? I'm calling from France," an excited voice said. "Oh, hello, Chelsea. Wait a moment, the kids just finished breakfast." I handed the phone to Amber, who chatted with Chelsea for several minutes. One thing caught my ear when Amber said, "No, she didn't spend the night. She's not here. Daddy's watching us." Why would Chelsea ask if someone else had stayed over? I whispered to Amber to pass the phone to Neil and Rhonda after her. When Rhonda, who is 3, said, "Okay, Mommy, here's Daddy," I took the phone and turned it off so it wouldn't ring again. Chelsea would think Rhonda had accidentally turned it off and would not worry about not being able to talk to me. I waited about 15 minutes before turning the phone back on. It rang almost immediately, but surprisingly, it wasn't Chelsea. "Hi, Paul. How are things going with your newfound twin?" I couldn't help it. I broke down and cried on the phone with my sister. We might not be related by blood, but our love and bond were stronger than anything I felt with Pierre. "Anita, thank you for calling. I'm about to lose it trying to figure out everything." "What do you mean, Paul? Is Chelsea's plane okay?" Did it make it to France? Yes, it did, but that's not the problem. Chelsea is being unfaithful with Pierre, and it's tearing me apart. I can't believe it. Are you sure? I'm certain. I need to look through several video recordings to understand what has been happening without my knowledge. But my kids have to come first, with Chelsea in France and me here with them. Anita interrupted. I'm so sorry. This is awful. Just tell me what you need. Darren and I plan to take our kids to the water park today, and I was calling to see if you wanted to join us. We can come by in about 30 minutes and take them off your hands for the day. I couldn't ask you to do that, Anita. 5 kids at once? Are you serious? No worries, little brother, she laughed. Mom and Dad will be there to help out. They love having all 5 grandkids together. We'll have them back by 8 tonight, well-fed and completely worn out. How does that sound? Sounds perfect, sis. The kids can have a fun day, and I'll get a chance to go through these recordings and put everything together. I need solid proof before confronting him. Pierre is wealthy, so I need to be cautious. Anita and I hugged tightly as she left the house with my 3 kids. My first task was to turn off the camera in the office, where I'd be spending a lot of time. With the house empty, I didn't need to worry about playing recordings out loud, so I turned the volume up to catch every word. I skipped over parts that weren't relevant, looking for anything that could help me understand what was happening. What I discovered was surprising. I never realized my wife might be influenced by wealth and attention. Pierre praised and complimented her every chance he got, and she enjoyed it. She laughed at his jokes, blushed at his comments, and welcomed his gifts, which included jewelry and clothes I hadn't seen before. Eventually, their friendly kisses became more, and she gave in to his advances. To my surprise, I didn't feel as angry as I expected. Watching them interact felt like watching myself, except with his voice. On Tuesday, I saw them sharing close moments, and I noticed that evening my wife seemed particularly affectionate with me, though it was clear her mind was elsewhere. By Wednesday, it was evident her feelings were weighing on her, as she avoided looking me in the eyes. She had the kids entertained with a movie while she spent time with him. Thursday and Friday followed similar patterns, with him visiting while I was at work. The way they connected was strange to watch, as it mirrored many things she and I had once shared. I knew I could never be close to Chelsea again. Even though I disliked the idea of how this would affect the kids, I couldn't stay married to her. A divorce was coming. I had to be careful because he had power and money that could hurt me. Hearing their talk made my decision clearer. Pierre thought his money could get him anything, even me. One Wednesday afternoon after their long time together, I listened to them talk about me. So, how do you think we should tell Paul about our love? Chelsea asked. No, I don't think it's wise for him to ever find out. He is my only family and I don't want to cause him pain. Can you handle being married to him while being with me as much as we can? Pierre replied. I could, but my heart is with you now. You have captured me completely. I still care for him, and I always will, but you make me feel alive in ways he never could. He may look like you, but he's not as great as you are. Thank you for saying that, but I feel guilty about taking your love from my brother. I need to make it up to him. What do you mean? Chelsea asked, curious. Every man loves nice cars. I will get him the best sports car I can find quickly, and this house you just bought it, right? Pierre said. Yes, a little over a month ago. We still have boxes to unpack. Perfect. I'll pay off your mortgage and give him the car tomorrow. It will keep him distracted and help me win his favor. Wow, you would do that? Chelsea seemed impressed. For him, my gifts to you are different, he said with a laugh. It was clear he felt guilty yet kept secretly planning with Chelsea. To him, she might be worth a lot, but to me, she felt worthless. I also caught another conversation through the doorbell camera. They were sitting together on the porch, holding hands. I'm sorry, but I need to go back to France this weekend for work. Do you think you could convince Paul to take you with him to visit me for a week or two? It could help us grow closer, Pierre said. To France? With you? That sounds amazing. I've always wanted to visit Paris, Chelsea replied excitedly. I'm sure that between us we could convince him to go. He has vacation time left. We were saving it for a family trip, but he could use it for this. That sounds great. I have another idea. What if I could set it up so we could have the first 3 days alone together? He would join us later and spend time with me. I'm not sure how you could make that work, Pierre, but I would love it if you could. You are such an interesting person. Yes, I'm completely on board with that. Leave the details to me. I think I can make it so he will have to work while we enjoy ourselves first. So Pierre arranged for me to work on Monday? He must have set it up so that Carl Reed and Francine Walsh could take time off, which meant Greg had to ask me to work Monday and push my flight to Tuesday morning. All so he could have more time with Chelsea. I guess he wants to make the most of it. Well, he can have her as far as I'm concerned. But how could he have planned all this? He was at my house spending time with my wife on Thursday and Friday. He had to have someone else make the arrangements for him. And who does he usually rely on? Helena Moreno. She's the one who does everything for him. This puzzle was starting to make sense. Even as Pierre expressed his love for me as his new brother, his habit of pursuing married women overruled his family loyalty. He seems to think I could be satisfied with his kindness if I ever found out about his betrayal. He will soon realize how mistaken he is about me. It was 2:30 in the afternoon when my doorbell rang. Since I was still at my computer, I checked the doorbell camera and saw Helena there. She was dressed nicely, as if to impress. Right now, she could be anyone famous, and she wouldn't catch my interest. Instead of letting her in, I stepped out to meet her on the porch. Hi, Helena. I thought you knew I'm watching the kids until Monday. I'm sorry if that wasn't clear. Hello, Paul, she said, taking my hand with a big smile. It's so nice to see you again. Can I come in? The kids aren't even here right now, so you came all this way for nothing. Oh, I wouldn't say that. I have something I'd like to show you. Will you please let me in? Why not just show me here on the porch, Helena? Oh, I couldn't do that, she replied. It wouldn't be appropriate. Well, I don't think it would be proper for me to be alone in my house with you dressed like that, so if that's all, you can go. What? I don't understand. I thought we had a connection, Paul. Please let me inside, and I'll explain what I mean. So this is the moment you said you would do anything for Pierre. Is that right, Helena? I don't know what you're talking about, Paul. Oh, really? Let me help you out. Pierre's security guy came by yesterday and set up my security system, so it's ready now. Roland passed that along to Pierre. How am I doing so far? She gave me a blank look. Pierre knows I sent you away until Monday, and he's not happy with you. Why? I think he wants you to charm me and to have proof of it. And here you are, dressed to impress. Does that sum it up, Miss Moreno? A tear slipped down her cheek as she tried to stay calm. She grabbed my hand and said, Please walk with me, Paul. I promise you'll be safe. Her sincerity made me agree. I locked the front door, and we started walking down the street. She tapped a few keys on her cell phone and put it away. Paul, she said, I owe you an apology, and that's why I'm here. But I'm also faced with a tough situation, so this isn't easy for me. What do you mean, Helena? Just then, an Uber pulled up next to us. Great, our ride is here. Let's go somewhere we can talk, she suggested. She asked to go to the local mall. We found a spot in the big food court. We each ordered something sweet, and as we ate, she started to speak. You were right, Paul. You surprised me today. I didn't expect you to be so sharp, but I think there are some things you don't know, and I want to help you understand. I noticed how everyone passing by seemed to be drawn to the stunning woman across from me. It was hard for me, too. Helena, I might know more than you think, but I won't share everything with you now. You work for my brother, and you've made it clear where your loyalty lies. I'm not sure what you want to achieve today. You were correct about everything. I was supposed to be with you this weekend, helping with the kids and trying to gain your favor. Pierre was told your security system is now operational. He's targeted your wife and asked me to do whatever it takes to win you over in your home so they can use it as proof if anything happens. He believes that if you're unfaithful to Chelsea with me, then you have no reason to complain about her being unfaithful to him. I already know what happened between Chelsea and Pierre. You can tell your boss that I'm not a fool for ignoring your efforts. I assume Chelsea knows about him offering me this pass? Helena nodded to confirm. That means she's part of his betrayal, too. I figured as much. Why are you telling me all this, Helena? Couldn't this get you in trouble at work? That's why I mentioned this might end my career. Pierre has no idea I'm sharing this with you. When he sees the video from your front porch, he might think that my attempts to get close to you led me to take you somewhere I could persuade you to listen to me. He might believe that afterward we'd return home where everything would be saved. Yet here you are being honest with me. Why would you risk your job like this? I've helped Pierre with this kind of thing before with the husbands of other women he pursued. In those cases, the husbands were often already unfaithful or treated their wives poorly. I thought I was helping those women escape their unhappy situations, but your situation is different. You and Chelsea have a happy family with 3 young children. From what we found out, you have never been unfaithful and likely wouldn't be. The only thing Chelsea would gain from Pierre's actions would be her wedding vows and her family duties. I strongly disagreed with his plan to go after her, but that might have only made her seem more attractive to him. He might think that if he can win your wife, it would boost his ego. From where I stand, Helena, he used his money, status, and charm to distract her. It also doesn't help that he looks just like me. What he did is awful. He's ruining my family just because he can. Does he really think I would accept this? He hoped you'd never find out. To ease his guilt, which I've never seen him do before, he gave you the car and helped with the mortgage. In his mind, he thinks he's just borrowing her for a little while and will return her to you later. He doesn't understand that people here don't see relationships the same way Europeans do. Nothing could be further from the truth. I plan to divorce her, and then she can follow her dreams wherever they lead. But how can you say that, Paul, when you only have your suspicions? With a man like Pierre Dumont, you need solid proof. It seemed Pierre didn't realize that my security system had been working from the very first day. The lack of a key didn't stop it from gathering information. I have clear, high-definition video of almost everything he said and did with Chelsea. Helena suddenly covered her mouth in surprise, taking a sharp breath. Are you sure? No one has ever gathered real proof of his affairs. This could put you in a strong position against Pierre. Does he know you have this? Not yet. I've been going through it all day. I finally pieced it all together. I haven't seen a lawyer yet, but I know I will be filing for divorce from Chelsea. Oh no. Pierre definitely doesn't want you two to split up. He thinks his relationship with her is just a small bump in your marriage, something he has already made up for. Once he's finished with her, he'll just move on to his next target. He wants you to stay married and eventually laugh about it. After all, you are his only brother, his only family. He believes in sharing everything. I don't see him as a brother anymore. I have a sister whom I love, but to him, I feel no connection. He is no longer part of my life, and I refuse to let him back in. Are you really serious, Paul? This will crush him. I knew it would catch up to him one day. Crush him? I doubt it. He wouldn't have hurt my wife, my family, and my life if he cared. To him, I'm just a tiny bug on his windshield. That's not right, Paul. You don't know him like I do. I've never seen him care about anyone else until you came along. He will be heartbroken. I know I'll have to deal with Chelsea often until the kids grow up since we share custody. But I will cut ties with Pierre and everything connected to him, only looking to upset his life like he did mine. But what can you do to him? He sees you as small and himself as powerful. He could easily push you aside if you challenge him. He has endless resources. Don't worry about me, Helena. I'll manage. But if he finds out you helped me in any way, he could come after you too. As you said, this could cost you your job. What would you do then? Like you, Paul, I'm at a tough point. If you decide to divorce, which it sounds like you will, Pierre will strongly try to convince you to change your mind. If you make this public and embarrass him, he could cut you off and use his power against you. I've seen what happens to those who stand up to him. Many have been hurt, but nothing connects back to him. I have not been able to charm you like he wanted me to. He might try to make me lie and say we were close while your wife is away. That would make it hard to know who to believe, and he wins in the end. Everyone else I've had to deal with deserved it. You don't. Your honesty, character, and strength are rare these days. You are a special person, Paul Blaylock, and I mean it. I don't want anything bad to happen to you. I'm curious about something, Helena. If you don't want to share, I'll understand. What do you want to know, Paul? I've already told you most of what I know. This past Thursday, when we were all in the car and the 3 of you were talking in French, what were you discussing? Helena hesitated, unsure if she should answer. I didn't want to say anything that would make Pierre look worse, but since you asked, he bragged about having been with your wife at your house, which is why Gerald looked at you the way he did. I was upset with Pierre's behavior towards his family. He dismissed my concerns, saying you were well compensated with gifts, and told me to stay quiet. He mentioned that I would soon enjoy being with you to keep me in line. He picked out this outfit I'm wearing now and had me send him a picture right before I came to your place this afternoon. I'm sorry, Paul, but that's the truth. For him, being with another man's wife is a way to feel powerful. It's more about the control than the act itself for him. I need to know, Helena, you have to choose a side now. Look me in the eye and tell me, are you still with Pierre and therefore my enemy? Or are you my friend, maybe my only friend? She looked straight into my eyes for a long time, and I sensed something there that I hadn't seen before. Was it kindness? Determination? I couldn't tell. I've been unhappy with Pierre for a while. He has treated me well and paid me a good amount, but I feel like I'm giving up parts of myself. I'm close to what I need to retire, but not quite there. If I'm going to leave him, you and I need to plan things carefully. If he suspects I want to switch sides, he will do everything to keep control. If we pretend for now, it will give us both time to figure out the next steps. I don't know why, but I believe you, Helena. I know this is a big decision for you, just like it is for me. I have a few things I want to get done in the next week, and I need your help to keep people from thinking I know what's happening. We can't talk at my house since it's being watched. How about we get a couple of prepaid cell phones at the mall to communicate? If you need to reach me while I'm at home, just let it ring once and then hang up. I'll go to the backyard where I can talk freely. This will help us coordinate our plans. That sounds good, Paul. I have some ideas to stretch things out regarding Pierre and your wife, which might give us more time. Will you be working tomorrow at your therapy job? Yes, unfortunately. I'm sorry, Paul, I caused that. Pierre asked me to arrange for 2 therapists to take sudden leave, and I did what he said. I wish I had approached you sooner. Even if you had, Chelsea seems to have her own plans, and she would likely go along with them anyway. I guess you're not planning to go to France to join them now? Absolutely not. There's no way I'd go over there now. Are you planning to work for the rest of the week, or will you take some time off? I need to take the rest of the week off to prepare for our separation and divorce. Are you close with your supervisor? At New Directions? Yes, Greg Dixon is the managing partner and a good friend. If you're still set on taking time off next week, Pierre or Chelsea might call your work to check in on you. Would Greg be able to say you're working if either of them calls? I'm sure he would. That's a great idea, Helena. I like your thinking. Helena smiled, and her eyes sparkled with excitement. Pierre will likely ask me for a detailed report on how things went today. He wants me to win you over as soon as possible. What if we create a scene at your house where I show a lot of interest in you and you turn me down convincingly? Pierre will definitely want to see that video and notice how I try hard while you stand firm and say something honorable about your marriage. This will help us buy some time as we create new scenes each day and also show Pierre and Chelsea just how much integrity you have, which they lack. I see why Pierre has taken an interest in you. You're really good at this, Helena. Later that evening, while at my house, Helena smiled and flirted with me for over an hour. She got close and hugged me tightly. As she leaned in to kiss me, I turned my head slightly and she ended up kissing my cheek instead. I thanked her for her kind offer and told her how lovely she was, saying she would make a great wife someday. However, I explained that I was loyal to my wife and my marriage. Before she left, I asked her to come back at 7:30 a.m. to help look after the kids while I was at work. She smiled and for the camera said, "Maybe next time." Not long after Helena left, the kids Amber, Neil, and Rhonda came home looking very tired. I gave Anita a big hug and thanked her for her help. I didn't want the kids to bathe first, so I quickly tucked them into bed. Even though I was busy at work, especially with the extra duties from Carl and Francine's absence, I used my free time to search for new apartments that would be good for me and the kids. I wanted to move out of my house for 2 reasons. I felt hurt by my wife's betrayals, and also because the house was paid for by someone I didn't want to be reminded of. I found 3 places I wanted to visit before making a choice. Greg assured me he would cover for me at work, especially since I was facing a divorce. He asked the office secretary to send all my calls directly to him without commenting. On Monday evening, when I got home from work, the kids were excited to see me and told me that Aunt Helena had ordered pizza for them. Helena mentioned she was making a chicken casserole that was almost ready. She suggested I take a shower while she finished up. I was surprised to see her taking care of things at home like this. When I came back downstairs, the table was set, and the kids were sitting with their pizza on their plates. Helena served me a generous helping of the casserole, and then took some for herself. "This is my mother's recipe," she said. "Everyone who tries it usually wants more." She watched me as I took my first bite. "Delicious," I said. "After what Pierre made, I didn't think I'd enjoy French food, but you have changed my mind." My words were honest, and Helena was very happy to hear them. Later that evening, after the kids were all washed up and tucked in, Helena read them a bedtime story. They listened closely, captivated by her soothing voice. I watched from the doorway, impressed by this unexpected side of her. We spent some time watching TV together downstairs, and Helena sat beside me, playfully chatting and making light jokes. I felt quite flattered, but decided to keep things friendly and gently sent her on her way. Late that night, I spent time alone, thinking back to the recent events with Helena and wondering if she was doing the same. On Tuesday morning, I pretended to head to work, drove off, and then waited nearby. After feeding the kids and getting them ready, Helena loaded them into Chelsea's car, locked up, and left the house. She met me a block away, and we went together to a childcare facility nearby, where she dropped them off for the day. We then spent the morning looking at apartment options. She was surprised by my call the night before, but we agreed it would be easier to handle the day this way. After touring 3 places and hearing her advice, I signed a short-term lease. We had a nice lunch together before I arranged for a nearby storage unit. Just as we were wrapping up, my phone rang around 3 p.m. as expected. "Your flight just landed here in Paris at 9 p.m. and you weren't on it," a woman on the other end said in a frustrated tone. "Oh, I'm so sorry, Chelsea," I replied, trying to sound genuine. "I forgot to call you. My vacation got canceled again. You know how it goes. I'm not sure I'll be able to come to France this week after all. Maybe next week will work better." "But you were supposed to be off after Monday," she said, sounding confused. "Schedules can change quickly, can't they?" I replied casually. "But what do I tell Pierre?" "Tell him whatever you need to, Chelsea. I really have to go now. Bye." Not 10 minutes later, Helena's phone rang and she answered quickly. She had a 12-minute conversation in fast-paced French, with what sounded like Pierre on the other end. The exchange ended with her looking a bit worried. "He's really upset," she said after hanging up. "Apparently he had Chelsea call your work and your boss told her that 3 people tested positive for coronavirus, so they had to cancel your time off. Pierre said Chelsea wasn't happy about it, but he understood. He wants me to see if there's any way to work around the situation. I told him I'd try, but that there's no quick fix." She paused, then added, "Pierre wants to find ways for you both to get closer. Oddly enough, he seems genuinely interested in bonding, though he's still frustrated by the circumstances. He said it doesn't feel the same without you around." After I reminded him that if everyone had gone to France together on Saturday, they would already be there, he realized it and felt frustrated with himself. I added, "So the main point is they believed the story that I had to work this week, and he wants you to be more charming." "Exactly. We should get through this week easily while we both arrange our plans for the near future." When we got back to my house, Helena went into the garage and turned off the circuit that controls the security system. She called me, and I entered to check that the cameras were not working. We both started loading the cars with my belongings, mostly tools and equipment I wanted to keep but couldn't fit in the new apartment. After moving everything to the storage facility, Helena took care of the kids and was home with them before their dad came back from work. This way, if the kids talked to their mom on the phone and were asked, they would say their dad had gone to work as usual. Helena had already turned the security system back on, so Pierre wouldn't expect any recordings during the time it was off. After the kids were asleep, Helena playfully danced for me. She had a way of getting my attention. We both knew what was coming next. I had tightened my belt so it would be hard to pull my pants down. She pulled at it quickly, but nothing happened. I laughed at her creativity and sent her on her way, declaring my love for my wife to the cameras, meant to annoy Chelsea and Pierre. On Wednesday and Thursday, I moved everything I wanted to keep to the storage or the new apartment. On Friday, we moved most of the kids' stuff, clothes, toys, and small furniture into the apartment. We left their favorite things at the house to avoid too many questions until the move was finished. When they asked about their missing things, we explained that we had cleaned up their room, and it looked nicer now. Chelsea called every evening around 7. As soon as I saw her name, I handed the phone to the kids, making sure she couldn't talk to me. I knew that frustrated her, but I didn't mind. Each night ended with Helena trying but failing to get me into trouble. On Thursday night, I pretended to be very angry and harshly told Helena to leave. This entire scene was planned out beforehand by Helena. We had moved enough dishes, pots, pans, and utensils to meet our simple needs. On Friday morning, I rented a truck to move the main furniture from the children's room to our new apartment. I also stored the washer and dryer. I called the power company to disconnect electricity from the house and asked the water company to turn off the water supply at the street. The cable and internet provider also disconnected their services. The house was completely cut off from all utilities. My brother-in-law, Darren Efland, still worked as a volunteer fireman. I'd asked him to help arrange for the fire department to get the necessary permits and be at my house after we finished moving everything. They planned to conduct a controlled burn, using it as a training exercise for new firefighters, which I agreed to. Chelsea's car and a sports car were parked side by side in the garage with their windows down. I used a 5-gallon can of gasoline to soak both cars and spread some around the house. When Darren signaled that it was time, I lit a match to start the fire. I was surprised at how quickly the house fell apart. The only thrill came when the gas tanks in the cars popped, but the fire department quickly managed the situation. I had to get a permit for tearing down the house and removing the debris before starting the fire, showing proof that there was no mortgage. They were surprised by my actions, but I told them I planned to build a better, more energy-efficient home. That satisfied their environmental policies. In less than 4 hours, the property, valued at $1,375,000, dropped to zero. By 9 p.m., the fire department confirmed there were no remaining hotspots. The crew cleaning up said they would have the lot cleared and leveled by Sunday night. I had to pay them up front. Many might think I was making a foolish choice by destroying my house and car. I could have sold them and used the money to buy something new. But to me, that felt wrong, like cleaning dirty money. If someone offered me money with a bad reason behind it, I wouldn't accept it. I understand not everyone will share my views. It's just how I think. I thought the kids might resist the idea of moving to a new 3-bedroom apartment, but they saw it as an exciting adventure. I gave the girls the master bedroom, and they were excited to have their own space. Neil got the smallest bedroom, which was just right for him. I moved into a medium-sized bedroom that had some of my old furniture, but a brand new bed. I told my parents and sister about the move, but I kept Chelsea's parents unaware for now. They would find out soon enough. Helena was happy that after we moved in on Friday, we wouldn't have to plan any activities for fake cameras. On Friday and Saturday nights, I slept on the couch while I encouraged Helena to sleep in my bedroom. I didn't mind that she was there before I was. She argued for the couch but didn't win. The kids loved having her around, and if I'm honest, I did too. I turned off my phone those nights, so when Chelsea called, the kids couldn't reveal our move. Of course, they didn't know what happened with our old home. Helena told me on Friday night that she had set up a news conference in Hollywood for Sunday at noon, as we had planned. We would fly there and back in one day at no cost using her frequent flyer miles. This event would be similar to one Pierre had done before, but this time, I would be ready to speak. My parents agreed to come over on Sunday to spend time with their grandchildren. Pierre called Helena on Saturday to ask why the security system was down at my house. She said she didn't know and couldn't ask me without revealing that Pierre was watching their activities. She also mentioned that her efforts to attract me hadn't worked again. Chelsea was with Pierre listening in on the call. Pierre suggested that maybe Helena wasn't my type, even though he had never seen anyone refuse her before. Then he suggested hiring an escort, but Chelsea quickly dismissed that idea. She said I would never be with someone I just met and believed Helena just needed more time to connect with me. She was sure I would change my mind. Pierre was very frustrated with my refusal. He reminded Helena that even if I agreed to be with her, it wouldn't matter if it wasn't recorded. He told her to capture her next attempt on her phone if she succeeded. Helena said she would try her best. Pierre then switched topics to my work schedule. Helena told him she was in touch with Greg, my boss, every day. The latest update was that he hoped at least 1 or 2 of the 3 people sick with coronavirus would return to work on Monday. But there were no guarantees. It wouldn't be clear until then if anyone would show up. She said she would book my ticket to France once my boss let me go. She lied to Pierre, saying she didn't like babysitting my kids to make Chelsea and Pierre believe she wasn't interested in being there. Pierre said he understood her feelings, agreeing that he didn't like kids either and preferred to stay away from the Blaylock family. He still regretted not bringing me along at the start, but it was easy to see things clearly in hindsight. Pierre transferred a €300,000 bonus into her account for her efforts so far, and promised an additional $700,000 once she provided video evidence of at least one private moment with me. She shared everything with me, so I trusted her. I felt a strong urge to confront both of them, but I thought it would be best to wait for our planned press announcement. I decided to avoid Chelsea one last time. I turned off my phone to prevent any mention of our new home. I didn't care if that upset her. Pierre called Helena, who said she didn't know why my phone wasn't working. He shared his worries about my upcoming trip to France. He urged Helena to do whatever was necessary to get me off work so I could join them. My parents arrived at the apartment at 7 a.m. to look after the kids in their new place. Helena and I headed to the airport to fly to California. We reached Hollywood 2 hours before our noon press conference, giving us time to collect our thoughts and finalize details. At noon, we noticed there were only a few reporters present compared to Pierre's earlier news conference. Maybe noon wasn't the best choice for timing. Still, once the story was shared, it wouldn't take long for it to reach news channels in France and globally. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Paul Blaylock. I am the recently discovered identical twin brother of French actor Pierre Dumont. I stand before you today to share some very troubling news. Pierre has betrayed me by becoming involved with my wife in my own home. My wife, Chelsea Blaylock, and Pierre have both wronged me deeply. I will be seeking a divorce from Chelsea as soon as possible and will sever all ties with Pierre, who is now out of my life. Laughter broke out from the audience as someone stepped forward. Surely you're joking, Paul. It's known that Pierre has gifted you a very expensive French sports car and paid off your mortgage, totaling well over $1 million. If he wanted to harm you, why would he do that? I'm glad you asked. Pierre said it was to make up for his involvement in my marriage. However, those gifts were short-lived. Short-lived? Another reporter asked. What do you mean by that? Just 2 days ago, my house was burned down along with the new sports car, which I had never driven and was parked in the garage. Everything was a complete loss. A woman laughed softly and said, "Even if we believe that story, your insurance should cover it, so maybe it's not as bad as you say." I appreciate your thoughts. Let me explain. When Mr. Dumont paid off the mortgage, I didn't need homeowner's insurance anymore. I canceled it, thinking I would have time to find a better deal. The same goes for the car, no insurance on that either. So now both are gone. I haven't gained a single cent from Mr. Dumont. His gifts have disappeared. Plus, I also lost my own 10% down payment of $100,000 on the house. So, the loss is even bigger than just what Mr. Dumont gave. After the fire, nothing could be saved. Some chuckles were heard from the reporters. Is this a way to pressure Mr. Dumont for more money after he was so kind to you? Is that what this is really about? I looked firmly at the person asking and replied, I don't want a single cent from Mr. Dumont ever. I want him to keep everything that belongs to him as far away from me as possible. That even includes my wife. He can have her as a parting gift. If I got my wish, I would never see either of them again. Mr. Dumont has brought only pain to my family. My kids will have to grow up in a broken home because of his actions. This box has memory chips with raw footage of their time together in my house before it burned. Please take one with you. My wife is with Mr. Dumont right now in France, and they have been there without me or her 3 kids for over a week. If you check, you will find that I am telling the truth. I'm sure there are photos of him with a new woman. Her name is Chelsea Blaylock, my wife. I hope she never comes back to the USA. If what you say is true, sir, where are you and your kids staying now? We have moved into a modest 3-bedroom apartment for now. I will soon be a single dad, and we are getting used to life without her. A hush fell over the group. It was starting to sink in that I might be speaking the truth. It wouldn't take long for them to find proof. Soon, stories would spread online, eventually reaching France, where I hoped they would hurt his reputation and career. In the world of celebrities, reputation is everything. I knew there would be consequences, and I was ready for them. After the news conference, Helena and I went to a restaurant for lunch. During the meal, Helena finally started the conversation. Paul, even though you think I should leave for a while, I want you to know it is one of the hardest choices I have ever made. I have grown very close to your 3 children and enjoyed every moment I have spent caring for them. They care about you too, Helena. You are more than just a babysitter to them. That's why they call you Aunt Helena. You are part of our family. She felt emotional as she touched my hand. It's not only the children that I will miss, Paul. By the way, I need you to sign this document quickly before we say goodbye, she said. What is it? I asked. It is something that can help protect us if Pierre comes after us. Trust me, Paul, just as I trust you. I'm cutting all ties to him because of how he treated you. I signed it without looking closely. Then I asked, Are you sure you want to leave Pierre's job for good? I'm the only one who will be quoted from the press conference. I'm sure my picture was taken when I stood beside you. Pierre knows I had the connections to set up the press conference. You could not have done it alone. Plus, Pierre always says that revenge is best served cold. He will come after us both. I can hide, but you cannot, not with your kids. Do you trust me enough to tell me where you are going, Helena? Paul, I would trust you with my life. You are the most brave and honest man I know. I have a college friend who works at the French honorary consulate in Georgetown, Cayman Islands. He is someone I am close with, and Pierre does not know him. We have stayed in touch over the years. I will be safe there until things settle down. Trust me, when this is all over, we will see each other again. I understand. He is lucky to have you. I wish you didn't have to leave, but your safety is what matters most to me. I have no idea what Pierre might do because of me speaking out, but I know he won't let your decision go easily. Here, take my prepaid phone with you. I have your number memorized, and if mine is discovered, it could lead them to you. I don't want anything bad to happen to you, Helena. I leaned over and gave her a heartfelt goodbye kiss. It felt genuine. We shared a taxi to the airport and said our goodbyes there after another warm kiss. I made it back home for dinner, and Mom's cooking tasted just like I remembered. Even though I felt a huge weight lift off my shoulders, I knew trouble was ahead. I wondered when the news would spread in France, but when Chelsea called, she didn't seem to know anything. I decided it was time to talk to her. I put my phone on speaker and used a recorder to catch both sides of the call. Hello, Chelsea. How's Paris? Oh, Paul, we have been so worried about you. It seems you have been avoiding us. Can you tell me why? I know everything, Chelsea. That's why. What are you talking about? What do you think you know, Paul? Do you really want me to say it, Chelsea? Yes, Paul. What's going on? Okay, you asked, so I'll tell you. I know that you were with my brother before you left for Paris. I saw you two together in our home. I have recordings of you both in our house before you left. Remember that security system? It wasn't broken. It recorded everything in high definition. I've watched it, Chelsea. I've seen it all. Chelsea gasped in shock. I'm sorry, Paul. I didn't mean for this to happen. I didn't set out to fall for Pierre. It just happened. He's like you, but different in ways I didn't know I wanted. What about the kids? Have you thought about them and what this means for them? Pierre doesn't feel comfortable around children. I tried to get him to accept them, but it didn't work. He said you would take good care of them. Paul, I need to tell you that I'm stepping away from our marriage. Pierre has a movie to work on, and then we'll travel. I promise I'll be back soon. There is no home to come back to. Our house has burned down, and so has his car. They're both gone. The insurance won't cover it, so everything you had is lost. You'll need to make new memories with him because all of your old ones are gone. Did you say our home burned down and that nice car? Why won't the insurance cover it? I don't understand, Paul. What happened? You know what stands out to me about your response, Chelsea? You didn't ask if any of our children were hurt or if I was injured trying to save them. That says a lot. Was anyone hurt? I didn't think. No one was hurt. The only thing that ended in that fire was our marriage. It's over. Let me know if you plan to return home soon and I'll have the divorce papers ready for you at the airport. Oh, there's no way Pierre will let you divorce me, Paul. You need to forget that idea. This is just a temporary situation. You need to know that. Pierre won't keep me forever, but I will stay with him for as long as he wants me to. He also mentioned that you were involved with Helena. If he said that, he lied, Chelsea. Helena and I have never been close like that. If he claims otherwise, ask him for proof. It doesn't exist. He is not trustworthy. Stick with him if you want, but he has no say in our marriage, and neither do you. I'm filing for separation and full custody of the kids tomorrow. Have a nice life, Chelsea. The kids and I will be fine without you. You have no husband, no children, and I have no brother. You can do what you like now. Don't call here again, Chelsea, ever. We're finished. I hung up and turned off my phone. I made a note to change my cell phone number. I figured that once trouble started in France, my troublesome twin would try to contact Helena for help. Of course, her being unavailable would make him even angrier. I thought that after a day or two, he might send someone else to talk to her or even come back himself to deal with the situation. No one could reach me on my personal phone since I changed the number early Monday morning when I got to work. But that didn't stop Pierre from calling me at work. I was informed I had an urgent call. "Paul, my brother, what have you done? You must take it back. Take it back before it's too late," Pierre pleaded. "I'm sorry, Mr. Dumont. I can't do that. But why? You've caused so much trouble and tried to ruin my name, all for what? For someone else? I paid you well. You should be thankful, not trying to bring me down." "I'm sure that's all she is to you, Mr. Dumont. Just someone. But she meant everything to me, and you took that away. I'm just returning the favor." "You're a dreamer. And that's all you'll ever be, a loser, Paul. Nothing more." "Thank you for your kind words, Mr. Dumont. If that's all, I need to get back to work. Please don't call me here again, or I will block your number. The time when you could treat others poorly and expect loyalty is over. Goodbye, Mr. Dumont." I hung up and asked the switchboard not to take any more calls from him. Whenever I had a moment, I checked online for updates about the press conference. It seemed that videos with blurred parts were spreading on Instagram and other social media. At first, Pierre denied it was him. He claimed I was pretending to be him. But his French accent and voice were very clear. There had been many photos taken of him and Chelsea at clubs before the news broke. Now, these pictures were being shared again as proof of my story. Reporters were trying to talk to her, shouting questions about why she was leaving her husband and children in America. Pierre told her to ignore them and was upset that social media was working against him when it had helped him before. Even though he had finished filming, the producers said he would be replaced by someone less controversial. He had time to travel, as Chelsea had suggested, but they were followed by the press every time they tried to go out. The popular French TV star was now seen as a bad person. Soon, other people who had been hurt by Pierre started sharing their stories, and they were very similar to mine. There were so many new claims that Pierre felt like he was being overwhelmed. Within 2 weeks, all of his contracts were put on hold while they looked into the accusations against him. He still had his money, but no new opportunities were coming in, and instead of fans asking for his autograph, they were treating him poorly. This was his worst nightmare and embarrassment. He could hardly believe that just my voice was able to bring him down from his high position. Chelsea was beginning to complain that Pierre was treating her harshly, as if he was taking out his anger on her because I spoke up. She tried to make him happy, but nothing worked. Eventually, Pierre could not take it anymore. His public relations team could not restore his old image. It was clear that he was now an outcast in the industry, and it would take a long time, if ever, before he would work in entertainment again. He was in pain, forced to replace Helena as he could not find her. He suspected that I had something to do with her sudden absence and wanted to hurt me more than I hurt him. Pierre sent people to New Directions, Inc., the therapy business where I worked. They secretly met with the board of directors and arranged to buy the company for $20 million through a different company. This left the four partners with a nice sum of $5 million each. The only changes made were that I was let go, and a new CEO, Brad Preston, was brought in to represent Pierre's interests. I was told that due to the sale of the company, my job was eliminated. Greg said it was hard for him to let me go, but the terms of the sale were clear. He would lose his share of the money if he didn't follow the rules. Only Brad Preston knew that Pierre was the one investing in the business. Brad had clear instructions to follow Pierre's requests. He told the switchboard staff to send any calls about Paul Blaylock directly to his office phone, without sharing any details about Mr. Blaylock. If they didn't do this, they would lose their jobs. Since he could access all company files, Brad also tampered with my personnel record. He claimed I had acted inappropriately with several female patients, but he didn't name anyone. This was a lie, part of Pierre's plan to ruin my reputation. Only Brad and Pierre knew about the changes to my record, and since no one saw him do it, he wouldn't be held responsible. Brad's other job was to find Helena whenever he could. Pierre thought she was working with me, so Brad quietly watched me, hoping to see me meet her. Brad was just a person who took orders for money, and this was the easiest job he ever had. Pierre also planned to hire a hacker. Gerald had a friend who could help. This hacker was skilled and was paid a lot to find all my money and move it to accounts that I or anyone I might hire couldn't trace. It was easy for him. Suddenly all my money was gone. My bank accounts were emptied, my retirement savings disappeared, and my investments were sold off. Every asset I owned was wiped out, but my bills were still there. I would still have to pay all my monthly expenses without any income. Meanwhile, Pierre was done with Chelsea. While she was fun, he felt held back by her when he could have other options. He was upset that he couldn't embarrass his brother during their time in France, and he regretted that. Chelsea had become a burden in his public life, and any time they were seen together, it didn't go well. He gave her a half-hearted apology, saying things didn't work out as they had hoped, blaming her husband for it. He put her on a plane back to the States, and the only good thing for her was that she could keep the gifts he had given her. When she got back home, she immediately looked for me. Pierre had given her my new address. She rang the doorbell. "Hello, Paul. It's so good to see you. Can I come in?" Chelsea asked, looking hopeful. I stepped out onto my small porch and closed the door behind me. "What are you doing here, Chelsea? You've been gone for over 3 months. Did the person you left with get tired of being with you?" "Please, Paul, I don't want to argue. I want to see my kids. And if there's any chance you could forgive me, I'd like us to work on our marriage. Please give me a chance to make things right." "Now is not a good time to see the kids, Chelsea. You should have called earlier so we could arrange something. But as for us staying married, that's not going to happen. I filed for divorce after you left. There's no way I'll stay married to you. Why do you even want that?" "Paul, I thought I wanted all the fame and money, and chose that life over you. I learned that none of that means anything without you," she said with understanding. "They say hindsight is always clear, Chelsea. You hurt me and our marriage. You chose to leave, staying with someone else for months. Actions have consequences. Your choices have cost you your home, our marriage, and your time with the kids. If the court says I have to let you see them, I will. But until then, you need to leave here and not come back." "Can't I stay here with you and the kids? I'll help around the house and be there for you," she suggested. "We don't need you here anymore, Chelsea. You're no longer part of our lives." She paused, trying to hold back tears before saying, "I'm expecting a baby, Paul. You're going to be a dad again." "I can't be the father of your child. You've been away for months. How can this be my responsibility?" "The DNA test will show you are the father," she insisted. "No, it will show that someone else is the father, because I can prove we haven't been together since before you left." "You can't just leave your child, Paul. You know you can't. Can I please stay with you and see our kids?" "No, you can't stay here. What don't you understand? Have you heard anything I said?" "But where will I go? How will I support myself? Our life is in ruins," she begged. "I have no place to turn." "That's not my issue, Chelsea. Maybe you could try your parents. They're still around, right? If you need a way to reach them, I could help you call them. You have nothing belonging to you here. Whatever you decide, it can't include me." "But I have your clothes and things we packed for France. They're all here," she offered. "Do whatever you want with them. Sell them. Throw them away. It doesn't matter to me. There's nothing here that belongs to you, and I don't want to keep anything from you. If you leave something on the porch that was mine, I'll just throw it away. So please, just go, Chelsea." She was crying and trembling, and my words seemed to hurt her deeply. I quietly went back into my apartment. 20 minutes later, her parents arrived and took her away. I didn't tell her I had lost my job. I didn't want to give her anything to use against me. My friends and family were shocked by how quickly everything had gone wrong. I had lost my house and my car, been let go from my job, and found out that all my bank accounts had been hacked, leaving me with hardly any money. The next day, I got a notice from the medical board saying I was being looked at for some issues at my old job. This could cost me my professional license, and I might have to find a new career. I couldn't believe how bad things had gotten. I suspected Pierre was behind it all somehow, but I couldn't prove anything. Even if I could, it wouldn't change the situation. It felt like Pierre was enjoying this. I thought about whether I would have done things differently with what I know now. I realized the only change would be to close my accounts and save what money I had left to get through this tough time. It felt like all my bills were due at once. I went to the bank, and after many conversations, they said it looked like I had transferred all my money away myself. Unless I could prove otherwise, they wouldn't replace any of the funds I claimed were lost. I didn't know what to do. I knew my parents didn't have space for all of us to move in, nor could they suddenly support 4 more people on their income. I might stay with my sister for a little while, but I didn't want to risk our relationship. I had interviews lined up at 4 different companies, but each one called later to say I wasn't a fit for the job. Why was everything falling apart? Chelsea had sold most of the jewelry Pierre had given her to hire a lawyer. The lawyer would help her with her divorce and ensure she could see her children. She needed a $9,000 deposit from the $10,000 she had received, and served me with a notice to attend a meeting in 3 days. We would discuss the children's custody issues before going to court. I wasn't looking forward to discussing anything with her, but I had to follow the legal process. The meeting went as I expected. The mediator was a lawyer familiar with these types of discussions. Chelsea wanted full custody, and I wanted the same. We were in very different places on this issue. She seemed very anxious and restless. Mentioning her choice to leave her family for my brother did not seem to affect the mediator. But it mattered to me. We couldn't agree on anything, so we set up another meeting in 2 weeks to give us both time to think about what was best for the children. A week later, I got a call from the local jail. When I accepted the call, I was surprised to hear Chelsea on the line. "I'm sorry to call you like this, Paul, but I didn't have anyone else to reach out to. The police helped connect us since I didn't have your new number. I only have a couple of minutes. Can you come to the police station right now? It's really important. I have no one else to ask. Please, I need your help," she said, her voice shaky. I sighed deeply, wondering what trouble she was in this time, but her tears and urgency made me want to help. "Let me call Anita to watch the kids. I'll see what I can do," I replied. When I arrived at the station and was allowed to talk to her, Chelsea looked very frail and lost. We both picked up the phones on our sides of the glass. "You don't look well, Chelsea. What happened? What's wrong?" I asked. "Thank you for coming, Paul. Your kindness is something I have always appreciated about you," she replied. "Why are you here? Why were you arrested?" I asked. "Paul, I didn't want you to find out this way. I thought I could manage things before they got out of control. Clearly I failed," she said, looking down. "Failed at what, Chelsea?" "When you talked to me on the phone before everything went wrong, I fell apart. You were right all along about Pierre. I let his fame and wealth blind me. When you told me I had lost my family and home, it hit me hard. Pierre started giving me pills to help me cope. At first it was just to calm me down, but soon it was more than that. I became too reliant on them. What started as a way to manage my feelings quickly became an addiction. I needed to take more and more to feel normal," she continued. "After some time, I was fully hooked. I would shake if I didn't have my pills. He gave me a limited supply to take home. I had sold the jewelry he gave me for very little money to pay my lawyer. When I ran out of my medication, I became desperate. I eventually found someone who could provide the drugs I needed, but I had no money to pay him. I am ashamed to admit that I did things I shouldn't have to get the drugs. Tonight, I was caught trying to get help and brought here. Since this is my first mistake, bail is set at $250, 00, but I don't have anything. I can't call my parents for help because if I do, they will throw me out of their house and I would be homeless. Please don't let that happen to the mother of your children," she said between sobs. Even though I was upset with her for what she had done in the last few months, I still felt sorry for her. The problem was, I had no money too. I couldn't even feed my kids. How could I help her? "Chelsea, I don't have any money. Pierre got me fired and stole everything I had. The only way I see to raise $250, 00, is to get a loan against my car. You will have to give me a few days to do it, but I won't go through with it unless you agree that I have primary custody of the kids, and you get to spend time with them every other weekend. You either agree or I walk away." "Every other weekend? Can't you offer me something better?" "Forget it. Good luck, Chelsea." I started to get up to leave. Okay, every other weekend, I agree. I swear I won't change my mind this time." I sighed with relief. All right, Chelsea. Call your parents and tell them you might be away for a few days while I sort things out. I will, Paul. Thank you. I still love you, you know. I didn't respond, but stood up and left the jail. As tough as my situation was, I realized I had just met someone in a worse place than me. The next day, my parents took my children with them camping at the beach for the holiday weekend. They wanted to give me time to think and figure things out without the added pressure of taking care of them and to keep them away from Chelsea. I decided not to mention her situation yet. I didn't want the kids to worry until I had a plan. It was summertime, and that night there was a big July 4th celebration in the town center. I went hoping to see some friendly faces and maybe get a free hot dog. Yes, it was getting that bad. There was a stage with a local band playing for the large crowd. About 2,000 people were there. I was standing 200 feet from the stage when two well-dressed strong men took to the stage, grabbed the microphone, and started talking to the crowd. One of them held an aluminum bat. "Hey, hello everyone! Is everyone having a good time tonight?" one of the men shouted into the microphone. The crowd responded with loud cheers and applause. "Excuse me for interrupting everyone, but we're looking for Paul Blaylock. Does anyone know where he is tonight? We were told he might be around." A voice from the crowd called out, "What do you need him for?" "We want to have a talk with him about his actions as an occupational therapist and his behavior towards some women. One of them is my sister. Can anyone help us find him?" While one man talked, the other was scanning the crowd for me. Suddenly, he spotted me on the stage and they started to make their way towards me. I felt a cold chill run down my spine. No one in the crowd spoke up for me, and I felt stuck in place, unable to move. The two men pushed through the crowd quickly, getting closer. Then something surprising happened. Just as they reached me, an 80-year-old girl in a wheelchair came between us and raised her voice, making everyone quiet. "Misters, a while ago I was in a bad car accident and now I can't walk. Mr. Blaylock was so kind and patient with me when I needed help. He is one of the nicest people I've ever met. He's my friend, and you'll have to get through me first if you want to reach him." In that big crowd of 2,000 people, you could hear a pin drop. The two men looked ready to push her aside when a strong woman stepped in front of the girl. "Listen, if you even think about touching my daughter, you'll have to get through me first. I will protect her no matter what." A man was pushing through the crowd to stand in front of the woman and girl. "This is my wife and daughter. If you even think about harming them, you'll regret it," he warned. The two men looked at him with a smirk, knowing they could easily overpower him. Suddenly, 5 strong men stepped forward to stand beside him. One of them turned to the two aggressors. "This man is a building contractor and we all work for him. He's the best boss we've ever had, and I promise you as long as one of us is here, you won't get near him." Then their 5 wives stepped in front of their brave husbands, forming a strong line. Soon the whole town stood together in support of this one person, all thanks to the courage of an 80-year-old girl. She had spoken up for him just when it seemed the darkest. In that moment, his world felt brighter. Greg stood beside the mayor near the stage. He spoke quietly to him. "My name is Greg Dixon, and I work at New Directions, Inc. I hired Paul right after college and have known him for many years. I don't know these two men, but I have never heard any complaints about Paul. In fact, he has received glowing praise from everyone he worked with. No one has ever accused him of doing anything wrong until now. He was unfairly let go from his job, and he has 3 children depending on him. What is happening to this good man isn't right." The mayor nodded, and then stepped up to the stage, taking the microphone. "Hello, everyone. I'm Grant Maston, your mayor." The crowd turned their attention to him. "I have a question. Has anyone here ever felt mistreated by Paul Blaylock or knows someone who has?" The crowd was silent. "Let me ask again, does anyone here even know someone who has been mistreated by Paul?" Finally, one woman raised her hand. "Last year, my mother fell and broke her hip. It took her a long time to get back to normal. Mr. Blaylock worked with both of us to help her recover. If you ask me, he is a wonderful person. He went above and beyond to help us and never acted inappropriately." Then, one by one, more people spoke up, sharing their stories about Paul's kindness and good deeds. The mayor interjected, "That's just what I thought. This man is one of us, and he has been treated unfairly by a wealthy person looking for revenge after Paul told the truth about a situation. You must have heard the rumors. We in this town look out for each other. I understand he lost his job for no reason, likely due to some trickery. Is there anyone here who can offer this man a good job so he can get back on his feet?" One by one, hands began to rise across the crowd. In less than 30 seconds, over 100 hands were raised. "Officers," the mayor continued, "please make sure these men are held until Mr. Blaylock can leave safely. Also, take down their names and IDs in case we need to follow up with them later. I think it would be a good idea for the department to send random patrols by Mr. Blaylock's house to ensure a quick response if needed. Mr. Blaylock, you might not have known this before, but your town cares about you. You're a good person. These men won't leave until you're safely on your way. Thank you for being such a good member of the community." Tears were running down my cheeks. I felt overwhelmed by all the kind words and the strong support I received. I had no idea people thought so highly of me before tonight. I thanked everyone there for their kindness, and the crowd parted for me as I walked out. I didn't want to return to my empty apartment, so I drove to the nearby lake, hoping for a great view of the fireworks, especially with their reflections in the water. I sat there, feeling alone at the lake, thinking about my troubles. I was struggling financially, and even though I had narrowly avoided danger tonight, I could soon be homeless and might lose my kids if a good job didn't come along. As I sat there considering asking for change, I felt something uncomfortable pressing against me in the sand. I thought it might be a small rock, so I picked it up to throw it away. But when I looked closer, I realized it was not a rock at all. I had found what looked like a very valuable diamond ring. After finding the ring, I took it to the largest jewelry store in town, which was open until 9 p.m. When I asked about its value, the manager recognized it right away and went to make a call. A few minutes later, he returned. "This is a lucky day for you," he said. "A wealthy client had this ring made just for him, but he has decided to let it go. He said, 'Finders keepers.' He paid us $250,000 for this custom piece. Its value is around $175,000. Right now, I can offer you $150,000 for it." I was amazed by my good fortune. "I'll take it. How much cash do you have in the store right now?" I asked. "I'm not sure without checking. Give me a moment." After counting, he said, "Just over $1,200. "Okay. I'll take the $1,200 in cash and a check for $148,800. Do we have a deal?" The jeweler smiled and said, "Yes, we do," and we shook hands. Feeling much happier, I left the jewelry store and drove straight to the jail. I paid $250 to bail Chelsea out, put her in a taxi, and covered her fare to her parents' home. She thanked me a lot for being so kind. Next, I stopped by the grocery store to fill up my empty pantry and refrigerator back at the apartment. As I walked towards the apartment carrying 2 bags from my car, everything suddenly went dark. When I slowly woke up, I found myself in what looked like a hospital room, staring at a friendly face. "Paul, are you awake?" I struggled to focus as my eyes moved around. I heard her shout, "Somebody please get the doctor!" Not long after, a doctor came in. He checked me over quickly, snapping his fingers and shining a light in my eyes. After about 15 minutes, he seemed more relaxed. "I'm Dr. Houseman. You worried us, Mr. Blaylock. How are you feeling?" "Like a truck hit me," I replied. "My head hurts a lot." "That makes sense. You were in a medically induced coma for 3 days. We stopped the medication 4 hours ago. You had some serious head injuries which caused swelling in your brain. Our team has been working hard to help you." "What happened?" I asked, confused. "Your wife, Helena, is here. She can explain more about how you got here. She was there when it all happened. I'm glad to see you're doing better, but we want to keep you here for a few more days to monitor the swelling." I was still dazed. But wife? "Thank you, doctor," Helena said. "I will let you know if anything changes." The doctor nodded and left the room. I looked at the kind face above me. "Wait a minute. When did you become my wife?" "When you were brought in, I had to tell them you were my husband so I could be with you. I also gave them your insurance information and they just accepted it." "But I don't have insurance. When I lost my job, they told me I would have to pay $3,000 a month for COBRA coverage. I couldn't afford that, so I didn't sign up." "I know, Paul. I was worried that might be the case. I have a consulting company that I started a long time ago. It's where I handled all billing for services when I worked with Pierre. Do you remember signing a document at the airport?" I think so. Why? It was a work agreement that made you a consultant for my company, which means you are included in my company's health insurance. I thought this might happen, so I wanted to be prepared, especially since I know Pierre well. I hoped he wouldn't have done this to you, but I'm not really surprised. I don't know what to say, Helena. You are such a wonderful and caring person. Honestly, I wish I had married you from the start instead of Chelsea. I just didn't know you back then. As she smiled at me, her eyes filled with tears. My kids, are they okay? Yes, Paul. Your family has been helping me take care of them. They are doing well, so don't worry. I have been here as much as possible, and when I'm not here, I'm at your apartment looking after Amber, Neil, and Rhonda. They miss you, but understand that you were hurt and are in the hospital. Right now, you might be wondering how you got here. There's a lot you don't know, and I will answer your questions. But first, I want you to watch a video on my phone from the night you were attacked. What I saw was a nighttime view lit by a nearby streetlight. I was walking to my apartment with 2 bags of groceries when a person came up behind me and hit me hard on the back of my head with something. I fell to the ground. 2 men came closer and stood over me, looking pleased with themselves. The man with the bat raised it again, ready to hit me a second time. Then, out of nowhere, a man rushed in. He stopped the swing before it could hit me. He quickly got into a protective stance between me and the 2 men. It was Gerald. I couldn't believe my eyes. The man with the bat swung at Gerald, but he easily dodged it. As the bat continued its path, Gerald hit the man hard in the throat. The man dropped the bat and fell down, clearly in a lot of pain. Gerald talked briefly to the other man, but I couldn't hear what they said. The second man gave up and raised his hands. Gerald made a phone call, and the police arrived quickly. As the police approached, Gerald leaned over the hurt man for a moment before standing up. Then the video ended. When did you and Gerald arrive? Doesn't he still work for Pierre? Why did he help me? What happened to the recording? Why was there no sound? I will do my best to explain, Paul. Soon after I started working for Pierre, Gerald and I were in an open relationship for a while. He knew that Pierre asked me to entertain other men sometimes, and he was seeing other women during that time too. We ended our dating after about 6 months, but remained good friends and look out for each other. I gave Gerald my new phone number. He called to tell me that Pierre wanted him to hire someone to hurt you for speaking badly about him. Gerald couldn't let that happen, so he refused. He left Pierre's job and came to the States to protect both me and you. I texted him to say I was coming to look out for you, and he insisted on being here mainly to protect me and indirectly you. He stands guard outside your hospital room whenever I come to visit. He's out there now. I had turned off my phone's audio recording features on purpose. We needed to give the police the evidence of Gerald acting in self-defense to protect you, but we wanted to leave out his conversation. After he defended himself against a man with a bat, Gerald told another man with brass knuckles that his friend was in serious trouble and he could not help him. He warned the man with the brass knuckles that he might face a similar end if he didn't confess to the police about their connection with Pierre and agree to testify. Gerald made it clear that even jail wouldn't stop him and that his friends on the inside would take care of things for him. The man agreed to talk. Once Gerald knew he would cooperate, he took apart a pen he had in his pocket, knelt down, and used his pocket knife to make a small opening. He then used the pen tube to help the man breathe, saving his life. I was in disbelief as I processed everything she was saying. Why are you here, Helena? Why would you risk your safety for no reason? What about your friend in the Cayman Islands? Helena smiled brightly, lighting up the room. If she had wings, I would have thought she was an angel. I'd never seen her like this before. It's not for nothing, Paul. If you want me to leave after I answer, I won't come back. Henry Renard is someone I became very close with in college. Until recently, I would call him my best friend. He's as charming as anyone could be, and all the girls at school were drawn to him, including me. But there was one thing he's gay. What attracted me was his kindness, honesty, and love. I've never seen anyone love as fully as he loves his boyfriend. When I asked if I could stay with him in Georgetown until things settled down with Pierre, he wanted to know how soon I could come and promised I would be safe for as long as I needed. He's a wonderful friend, she went on. While staying with him and his husband, Franco, Henry helped me understand love better. True love has always been something I've struggled with. My parents went through a painful divorce when I was young, and they both used me to hurt each other. I felt caught in the middle and thought it was my fault their marriage ended. That experience made me turn away from marriage and any idea of having a happy future. I closed my heart to everyone except Henri, who I didn't meet until college. I had many dates, but to me they felt empty. I used men just like they used me. My life felt filled with loneliness instead of love. Love for me was just about physical attraction. I'm really sorry you went through such a rough time as a child, Helena. Your parents, who were supposed to protect you, hurt you instead. That was not your fault, Paul said. I understand that now, Paul, but I didn't before. The love between Henry and Franco was so strong that I could almost feel it. I wanted that in my life, but my heart was closed off. I didn't know how to love. Henry tried to explain it to me, but it just didn't make sense. I thought love was something couples had to do for each other. He told me love is a gift, not a chore. I asked him how he knew he loved Franco. His answer surprised me. He said that love is something you can't see, but for him, Franco makes that love clear. When they look at each other, so much is shared in just that one look. I didn't truly understand until Franco suggested something. She continued. He rented the movie Moulin Rouge. Being French, I knew a lot about the place, but strangely I had never watched the film with Nicole Kidman and Ewan McGregor. They had a great home theater, and the three of us watched it that night. Franco told me if I didn't understand love after watching the movie, there might not be much hope for me. Paul, it changed my life. Yes, the story was a bit cheesy, but it was filled with love from start to finish. One quote I will never forget is, "The greatest thing you'll ever learn is to love and be loved in return." It felt like that movie was made just to teach me about love. By the end, I was in tears, and my heart was fully engaged. When they sang "Come What May," I heard the most beautiful way to express love. Those lyrics made the unseen feelings clear. I would sing it for you now, but I would be crying too much to finish. Then Henry added something that changed everything. He said, "Helena, you will never know love unless you allow yourself to feel it." At that moment, I realized something big, and my heart just melted. Tears rolled down her cheeks with a smile. Helena took my hand, looked me straight in the eye, and said, "I love you, Paul. I really love you. I haven't said those words to anyone since I was 7. Until I met you, no man in my life seemed good enough. When I first saw you, I thought you were just like Pierre. I knew how wrong he was, and I gave him what he wanted. I did it for money, but I was mistaken about you. I thought your personality would be the same as his. I was wrong. You have a kind heart. You believe in treating others well. I have never known anyone who puts others before themselves. I have seen how you care for those 3 wonderful children. You have always been good and honest with me. Paul, you make me feel seen. I can feel the love shining from you." Helena laid her head on my chest and shed tears of love. I was deeply touched. No one, not even Chelsea, had ever shown me such love. Suddenly I felt warmth in my heart that I had missed for a long time. Love felt bright again. I took her hand in mine and said without hesitation, "Helena, you are more than I ever hoped for and much more than I deserve. Once my divorce from Chelsea is finalized, will you marry me?" She held me tightly as if she was afraid to let go. "Yes, yes, 1,000 times, yes," she replied joyfully. "I need you to know that I want it to be just us. You must agree to be exclusive with me for the rest of your life," I said before kissing her. "Honey, I wouldn't want it any other way. I am a one-man woman. You will never have to doubt me. I will want to be close to you always." When I returned home, Helena stayed with me to help, but only if I promised to sleep in my bed while she took the couch. Gerald said his goodbyes and left. I wanted to thank him and offered him some money for his help. He just laughed and said I couldn't afford him. At our next meeting, Chelsea kept her word, and we both signed the papers for our custody agreement. The lawyer assured us he would get the order approved by a judge soon. Feeling positive, he scheduled another meeting in 2 weeks to work on our divorce. We left together, and I asked her out for coffee to discuss a proposal. Once we had coffee and donuts, I started the conversation. "So, how have you been since your time in jail, Chelsea?" "I won't lie. It has been tough. I'm trying hard to resist my cravings, but sometimes I give in. Occasionally, I still see my dealer to get some pills to cope. At this rate, I might be in this situation for a while. What if I offered you a chance to change your path? Would you take it? That depends on what it is and what it takes from me, she replied. You and I are going to get divorced soon no matter what. But if you resist me, all you will do is delay things and make it harder and more costly for both of us. So I have a suggestion. I'm listening, she said. No Looking Back is a drug rehab program and halfway house on the edge of town. I've checked it out, and it's a good place. They offer a 4-month rehab program for $20,000. We've already settled the custody of the children, and we don't have any shared assets to divide. If we did, I would gladly share them with you. I can send you to our former account managers who will confirm that everything has disappeared. I believe Pierre was involved. A kind person gave me a piece of jewelry that I sold, just like you did with Pierre's, to help support the kids and get by until I find another job. If you agree to sign the divorce papers without any arguments at our next meeting, I will provide you with the full $20,000 so you can start fresh. If you complete the entire 4 months and get a clean bill of health from them, I will give you another $10,000 cash on the day you leave. This is the best I can do for you right now. What do you think? You're going to marry Helena, right? If she agrees, yes. I thought so. So there's no chance for me, for us. I'm sorry, Chelsea, but no. She looked deep in thought for a long time without saying a word. I watched as she made her decision. Under one condition, Paul. I will accept your offer and let you marry her, but I need one more thing from you today. What is it? A kiss, she said. Wrap your arms around me and give me one last kiss as husband and wife. I need that for closure. It will show me that we are parting on good terms. I won't ask for anything else. But I want to feel the connection we once had. If you can give me that, I will agree to your terms. I looked into her eyes and saw a desire for me that I hadn't seen in years. I thought about her request. We are still married, and I can't marry Helena until the divorce is finalized, which will make this process faster. But then thoughts crossed my mind about what she might have done recently, and it made me uneasy. I'll tell you what I can do, Chelsea. To give you something to look forward to when you are clear-headed, the day Helena and I pick you up from rehab to give you the $10,000 start, I will hold you in my arms and give you that memorable kiss right there. You have my word. Deal? She paused for a moment, smiled, and said, Deal. We shook hands. I knew that when rehab centers accepted patients, they checked for health issues. I was confident she would be healthy when she finished the program. I would tell Helena about my promise, so she would not feel worried about Chelsea. She signed the divorce papers as we agreed, and our divorce would be final in just under 8 months. In North Carolina, a divorce takes at least a year, but it can take longer if one side disagrees. To celebrate the signing of the divorce papers, I took Helena and the kids out to eat. We didn't tell the kids the reason, but Helena and I were happy. The next day we went house hunting not to buy, but I wanted to rent a 4-bedroom house for Helena so she could have her own bedroom and leave that uncomfortable couch. We moved in less than a week. That same week, Chelsea arranged for her stay at the rehab center. I took her to the facility and paid the fee in cash. On Friday afternoon, after dropping Chelsea off, I called her parents. I wanted to let them know she was settled in and asked if they could take care of their grandkids for the weekend. We were still on good terms, and they appreciated my efforts to help Chelsea. They were happy to take the kids and said they'd be over in 45 minutes. I told them we would pick them up on Sunday. Helena looked at me curiously in the empty house after the kids left for the weekend. Honey, the divorce papers are signed. To me, Chelsea and I are already divorced. Waiting for the final papers is just a formality. She smiled knowingly. Well, it's about time. Then she hugged me tightly, and we playfully enjoyed each other's company, moving from the front door to the bedroom. That first night, we shared a wonderful connection. I felt like no two people were better matched than we were. She had been with someone similar before, but she said there was no comparison. She told me our time together felt amazing. We whispered affirmations in the dark, to have and to hold from this day forward. We stayed in our own rooms for the sake of the kids until marriage, but every night they were away, we cherished our time together. 4 months later, I kept my promise as Helena and I drove up to the No Looking Back rehab and halfway house. Helena stood by the car with a large envelope full of cash. I took Chelsea's hand as she walked slowly to our car and pulled her into my arms. She looked very much like she was 7 months pregnant. A big smile lit up her face as I gave her a warm, loving kiss. Helena jokingly used the envelope to fan us, pretending we were too warm. When we finally stopped kissing, Chelsea laughed as Helena handed her the envelope. "I need to apologize to you, Paul. The therapists and counselors here are great. I learned a lot about myself, and it wasn't all good. You saved my life, and I will always be thankful to you. Helena, he is the best man I've ever known. Treat him well, and he will love and respect you forever. Remember my mistake. You've heard the saying, a bird in the hand is worth two in the bush? Paul is that bird. Never let him go." Helena hugged Chelsea tightly and thanked her for the advice. We drove Chelsea to her parents' house as she shared that she planned to use the money we gave her to settle into an apartment. The rehab center had even arranged a job for her as a secretary starting the next day. She also mentioned that the baby would always remind her of her past mistakes, so she decided to give the baby up for adoption. Once the divorce papers arrived, Helena jumped into action. We had a big wedding in France at a beautiful cathedral with an organ. I thought it was a bit much, but it was Helena's first wedding, and she wanted to experience it all. Her mom invited many important people from her job at the consulate. She was surprised to see her once detached daughter completely dedicated to one man, especially one who looked just like Pierre. They shared a heartfelt moment, happy to mend their relationship. In France, a class action lawsuit was filed against Pierre Dumont, involving 20 people, including me. He also faced criminal charges related to my attack. Helena knew a trusted lawyer in Paris who would handle the criminal case for me. We didn't need to be present during any court sessions, as our presence would have made it feel more like a show. It took more than a year for the legal system in France to reach a decision. Pierre was found guilty for his role in the breakdown of 20 marriages and was ordered to pay a total of 40 million euros, 2 million euros to each of the 20 people involved in the lawsuit. As for the criminal charges, Pierre was found guilty of planning to commit assault and planning to commit murder, largely due to the testimony of a key witness. Pierre was sentenced to 20 years in prison and had to pay me an additional 10 million euros. He also had to give me full ownership of the New Directions occupational therapist business that he had bought just to fire me. Helena's lawyer was very skilled, and I was happy with the result. The medical review board told me that their investigation showed I had done nothing wrong, so there would be no problems with my professional standing. Even though I didn't need to work anymore, I still loved helping people. I became a valued CEO of New Directions, treating everyone with care and respect. After Helena and I built our dream house, I built another one next door and moved my parents into it, giving them complete ownership with no debt. It was the best money I ever spent. Helena and I also helped pay for the college education of Anita and Darren's 2 children. Amber, Neil, and Rhonda welcomed 2 stepbrothers a year apart as we grew our family. True to her promise, Helena was always by my side and never made me doubt her loyalty. 5 years after rehab, Chelsea married one of her co-workers. She never missed a visit with the kids. Helena and I were okay with her being part of their lives. As far as I know, Chelsea never spoke badly about me to the kids, and we were all kind to each other. When the time came, I proudly walked Amber and Rhonda down the aisle at their weddings. As I grew older, I never forgot and was always grateful for the brave little girl in the wheelchair. Her selflessness changed my life for the better. I can hardly imagine how different my life would have been if she hadn't had the courage to stand up for me that day. Hey everyone! Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you won't miss any of the exciting stories we have coming up. What do you think about the characters in this story? Let us know in the comments. We'd love to hear from you.